pond for the bogs because it's been so dry.
Yeah, but they're supposed to notify us.
All right.
So I'll actually ask Jen to check that all out.
All right.
I know it's been really, really dry.
Yep, not today.
Okay, so this is unusual. We did not hear, at least as of the time I left the office, we hadn't heard from anyone else.
Let's see.
I know you're talking board members. Yeah, I
Right.
haven't heard from Amos. I didn't hear.
Oh, hold on, Bob's raising his hand.
Bob's here.
Oh, you see Bob. Is that Bob? Geez, I'm looking for him. All right, I'm trying to find you, Bob. There he is.
Here's his hand.
All right.
He comes in at 6:30.
That's all we need. Well, not really for a special.
No, we're gonna need, by the
Yeah,
time
we
we
need more than
get the
that.
special permits, we need Amos.
Mhm. Yep.
But we can start anyways. Amos, if you are on by phone or some other means, could you just raise your hand?
Let's see.
Good evening.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Good evening, Peter, by the way.
Oh,
You know, I only see one person calling in by phone, and if that person would indicate, oh, they can't in the chat. I don't think they can in the chat. That's okay. I don't think it's a board member though.
check the email.
No, email, there was nothing. So, well, we could start. Well, so 81 Summer Street, we can go over and talk the plan they're sending in terms of what they'd like to do. We wouldn't be able to take a vote, but we could certainly discuss it if Amos does not show up.
Greg, can you, I know I should know the answer to this. Can the board vote to continue the hearings that are continuing?
Yes, we just can't vote. Yeah, we can vote, we just can't. And we can even hear it. You can hear it with just 3.
But there's no vote.
But.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the
can't
first
vote.
several, which are all continuances.
Right. Yeah, no, we can do that. It's just it's the vote for the supermajority, you know.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna read us in and then we can start on our first one and then we'll see what happens. So, good evening all. Welcome to the June 27th, 2022 regular meeting of the Town of Easton Planning and Zoning Board. In keeping with an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, as amended by Governor Baker on February 12th, 2022, this meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count toward quorum. The meeting will be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT. To use Zoom, you will need to use the link on the agenda or download the Zoom application. While conducting meetings remotely, we will endeavor to keep meeting operations as close to our standard procedures as possible. Although after 3 years of COVID, I think these are our standard procedures. However, excuse me, use of this platform will necessitate some additional meeting protocols. While board members and applicants will be on video and audio, public participants will join the webinar as attendee, meaning they are muted with no video feed from them. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, members of the public can be recognized by using the raise hand function found under participants from Zoom, or you may make a request with the Q&A function. If you're joining by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. Board members are asked to announce themselves when making a motion and second so it will be clear to the audience, and minute takers who made the motion. All votes will be by roll call. So to ensure we have a quorum, we will have an audio roll call.
Deb is here.
Greg Strange present.
Is Shane here?
Robert Stetson here.
And
Okay.
also Deb is here. We just have to promote her.
Who's here?
Deb.
Deb.
Deb is in
Oh.
here.
Cool.
Here. Hi,
Yeah.
everybody.
Last name?
Deb Balsara.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. You saved us. All right. So we are going to start. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 continuances to go through. The first one, we have a request for 560 Foundry Street, Sawmill Village, to continue all related hearings to July 25th, 2022.
Motion to continue Sawmill Village to July 25th. Stetson.
Is Shane second?
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, Strange eye.
Is Shane aye?
Stetson, aye.
Balsara guy.
Great, thank you. Now, we received a request to continue 464 Foundry Street, all related hearings and permits.
Stephanie, are you muted?
Unmute. Greg,
I'm muted?
I was muted. I
Okay.
was trying to say something. If we could stick with 560 Foundry for a minute, because of the amount of time this project has been in permitting, the board needs to vote to extend. They've submitted a request to extend.
Yeah, I was gonna do that after the,
Oh, okay,
The other thing.
sorry. Yep,
no, it's okay. I'm just going, just in case
Yep.
people are here for hearings, I wanted to
Yep.
let them know.
Okay.
Okay, so let's read it. So continued public hearing, we received a request from 464 Foundry Street to continue to July 25th, 2022.
Motion to continue 464 Foundry Street, Stetson, to July 25th. Stetson.
Is Shane second?
Hearing no discussion, seeing no, all those in favor, Strange eye.
Is Shane aye?
Stetson, aye.
Balsara guy.
Thank you all. Next, we have a request for continuance, site plan review from My Brother's Keeper, 534 Washington Street till July 11th, 2022.
Motion to continue 534 Washington Street to July 11th. Stetson.
Is Shane second?
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, Strange eye.
Is Shane aye?
Stetson, aye.
Balsara guy.
Right. And last but not least, we received a request to continue the special permit for 2-family dwelling, 6 Hill Street. Request to go to July 11th, 22.
Motion to continue 6 Hill Street to July 11th. Stetson.
Is Shane second?
Deb?
Now you just have to take a vote.
All right. Well, all right. All those in favor? Strange eye.
Is Shane aye?
Stetson, aye.
Balsara guy.
There we go. All right. And okay, so as Stephanie said, given the duration of the project, we need to make a motion, or we'll accept a motion to extend the timeline for the project. So Stephanie, is there a certain amount of time we need to request?
You're muted.
Oh, you're muted.
I was just trying to save on the background noise. Suzanne, did they request a date?
They did. Their letter to the board says until July 25th, 2022.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't get that attachment. Okay, great. So, so we need a motion to extend to July 25th, 2022.
Well, that's just one meeting,
Well,
though, right?
that's not very long, though.
No.
I think we
Right.
should.
I think you're maybe reading the wrong letter.
I'll make a motion
When I
to
have-
extend until January 15th, 2023.
What date?
Are we okay doing that if they didn't request it?
What date?
Oh, I don't know.
He said
just said-
January 15th.
Said
Yeah,
January
application,
15th
right?
of 23.
We're not. But we're
But do we
extending
not- but-
the time they have to. finish their.
No,
submittal.
Right, but I'm saying, but if all we have in writing from them, if it does, I didn't, all I got was a quick note from Suzanne today.
Okay,
I don't see a
It's
letter from
in,
the applicant.
Stephanie, it's in the binder, I believe.
Oh, okay. So if it says we have to go by the date that's on there.
I got you.
yeah,
Anybody have the binder?
I do. It does say July 25th.
25th. Okay, do that. We'll just have to do it at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Motion
Correct.
to extend until July 25th, through July 25th.
Yeah, extend the project timeline
Yes, okay.
to July 25th.
Second, Stetson.
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, Strange eye.
Shane, aye.
Stetson, I.
Balsaric, aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we have okay, so we'll continue special permit common driveway final plan, 81 and 91 Summer Street. Stephanie, do you want to give the rundown on this, or do you want then?
Okay, so the board will remember that the applicant, and let me promote Eric Diaz because I know he's here for this, that the board approved a special permit for a 3-lot common driveway. When the board went out and did their site inspection, and then with discussions with the applicant during the meeting, it was suggested that the applicant seek a variance to allow 4 lots served by the common driveway. And what the board was thinking was that the configuration for the common driveway as it was shown servicing the 3 lots would continue. But right now, there's also a driveway, which actually is the driveway that's being converted or extended to the common driveway from Summer Street, that remain. The original proposal was to comply with the maximum 3 lots for a common driveway, that the existing home would create a new driveway further west on Summer Street, and you just have those 3 lots. And the board felt that that was a lot of clearing and a lot of new pavement that wouldn't be necessary if the applicant was able to get a special and get a variance allowing the 4 lots. They did go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. The board supported that application, the planning board, and it was approved. So they needed to come back to the planning board so that you could modify the special permit also to allow the 4 lots. And as I said, I did see Eric's here, so.
Yep. I'm here. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Good, good. For the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer with Strong Point Engineering, representing Garcon Corp. for 81 and 91 Summer Street. I think Stephanie summed it up very well. I do have a plan that I could walk through with you guys just to show you that if you want me to share my screen real quick. But basically, I've got 3 plans that I would go over with you. One is the plan that you approved. One is a revision to that plan based on the granting of the variance. And then the third plan, if the board would indulge me, that we submitted is a further revision that builds off of that. There's a condition in the special permit that says that the final house and driveway configuration has to come back before the board. We did submit a plan that shows the final house footprints that they're going to build out there. So if the board was willing to, we could go over that tonight as well.
So I just want to jump in for a second, Eric. So,
Sure.
Because the reason I paused this at the last meeting was, and I thought we needed to sort of close the book out on the original,
Sure.
which the revised plan showing what was granted by the easement. So,
Yes.
so did Stephanie, do we have that now? Are we all set with that, or?
Yes, Eric submitted that plan.
Okay, so that's checked off, so we're good.
Yeah.
So now what you want to do is propose a modification to the special permit.
Yes, I think that is
Because what you just because I've had the benefit of having a couple of conversations with you and Stephanie on
Yeah.
this. Because what you're proposing isn't just house locations, you're proposing a different driveway and street layout. Or
Slightly different
driveway
driveway
layout. All
configuration,
right, so
yes.
just for clarity.
That's
all
right.
Yeah,
So-
and I just want to be clear in my response, Greg. If your question is, did the applicant submit a plan showing the common driveway configuration that was previously approved and the fourth lot? We do have that. The board has not had a chance before this evening to look at that and discuss that.
Right, but so we should do that first, I think, and close that book, and
I agree.
then discuss, because that's how we would do it. Let's say you weren't changing anything, you would have submitted the plan that we needed to see what we approved. We need to close that book, and
Yep.
then you can say, okay, oh, but now we'd like to, amend. I
100%.
think that's how we, just legally, I think that's how we have to do it.
Yes, sir. So if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, can I share my screen real quick and just kind of walk through it?
Yeah, so you're gonna walk us through just the
Just
closed
what-
up original plan?
The closed up original
Okay,
plan.
just so I
that's
know where
not
you're going.
there,
Okay, great.
and I won't move on until we're comfortable with that.
Sounds good.
All right, let me share my screen. Can everyone see the dogs? Ta-da. So just as a refresher, let me start with this. This is the plan that you endorsed originally, okay? This is what was based on the special permit back in September 2021. And here is the existing house at 81 Summer Street. This hatched in gray driveway is the existing drive. What we had proposed at the time was that we were going to break that driveway here and just use it to access these three house lots that are up in this location. In order to get access to this existing house, we were going to bring a driveway up through this area. Okay, so what the board encouraged us to do, and what we did do, was go for a variance to eliminate this driveway and allow these three new houses and this fourth existing house to all be accessed off this driveway. So I'll bring that plan up now. That is what ended up being revision 3 to the plans. And I'll go to that same sheet just by way of comparison. And what you'll see is exactly that. The same exact lot configuration. We've gotten rid of the break in the driveway here, and we've eliminated any semblance of a driveway coming in off the west to access lot 4. The
Okay,
other
so,
thing,
Eric, hang on, I just want to pause you there for a second.
Yep.
So Stephanie, seeing this plan, assuming this has everything that we needed, we decided that this would just be administrative, that you would just grab it? Do we need to take, we don't need to take a vote or anything on this, as I recall, right? Or do you want us to? Or how do you
I think the board should take a vote because it is
Okay.
a change to the special permit by adding the.
Right. So this is just, so just for clarity, this is the plan we approved, now showing the approved variance, so that that new driveway
Right.
eliminated.
that's correct.
So any reason just to be done with this, we can vote on this right here from using his screen, right? I mean, this looks like the same plan, so. You good? Are you okay with that, everybody? Any issues?
Yeah.
Okay, so motion to approve the final plan, or the post, oh, I'm sorry. It's been a stressful day. You guys have to make the motion, forgive me.
Okay, motion to approve the updated plan, reflecting, the variance that was granted.
That's in second.
Well, any further discussion? Sharing a screen, so I can't save it. Oh, no chat, nothing. Okay. Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, strange eye.
Shane, aye.
Stetson, I.
Balsaric, aye.
Great. All right. Thank you. Okay, Eric. So now we haven't seen you for months. We've approved your plan. You got us everything you needed. Now your client wants to change things. Why don't you tell us?
Now he wants to change things a little bit, yes. So just looking at this plan that we just had up, well, as you can see, these house boxes are a little generic. They're just a square house box, kind of, I think we all know, somewhat of a placeholder, and these things are obviously subject to change when he has a final buyer and things like that. Same thing with septic locations. So what we've done since then, couple of things. He does have a buyer for these lots. We've determined exactly what they want to go with the house footprints for these lots. And we've gone out and redone some test pits and kind of cleaned up our septic plans and submitted those to the Board of Health as well. So that will bring us to this plan. So this plan is the same plan set that we just went through. We've adapted the existing conditions plan to reflect our new test pit locations, which are here and here. This is what will eventually, should the board accept these changes, this will become the basis for an A&R plan. And what you see if we zoom in here is that these are the current, what's shown as the former lot line on this plan is actually the way the lots are laid out now, where they have this chamfer at the corners. We're simply just revising the lot lines to extend these to square off lot 1 and lot 3 a little bit more. Everything is still compliant with zoning. So provided that we're successful with this modification tonight, we would presumably be at your next meeting with an A&R plan just to make that change. And then with regard to the layout, here is the revised layout that the client is seeking. Still 3 houses, still the same general configuration, but the house footprints are more advanced at this point. The septic designs are more advanced and have been submitted to the Board of Health. And with these 2 lots 1 and 3, before were angled more toward the mouth of the right of the driveway, they face each other now.
Okay. But I know that's not the whole story. Do you want to talk about what else is different in this plan, or do you want me to? In terms of the clearing is what I'm talking about.
Well, let's touch base on that.
Can we go side by side with the original plan, the approved plan? And do you have that capability?
Absolutely can. Give me just a second to figure out how to do that. And we will make it happen. So here's the approved plan. Okay, so let's talk about the clearing out there while we do this. So the client got to work out there to start clearing the lots to make way for all of this. And the approved limit of clearing is right at the 100-foot buffer zone on every iteration of the plans that we produced. You can see it here. You can see the EC barrier that comes up through here, right at the 100-foot buffer zone. For whatever reason, and I can't tell you exactly why it happened or what happened, but the tree clearers got a little carried away and cleared in some places into the 100-foot buffer zone right up to the 50-foot buffer zone. We got a call from conservation from Jen Carlino. We put the brakes on everything, ran out there to figure out what was going on. I think we got our survey crew out there within the next 24 hours to survey the damage that had been done and determine, yeah, they had in fact cleared into the buffer zone. We have since been working with the Conservation Commission very closely. We have completed a buffer zone restoration through the area that was cleared and wasn't supposed to be. We are in the process of installing a post and rail fence along the extents of that buffer zone restoration to stop any future homeowners from encroaching further. And at the meeting tonight, I actually have a conservation meeting on this when we're done here. We are proposing to provide a bond for the restoration work to make sure that any plants that die are able to be replanted and things like that. That to ensure that the site will be monitored as it's supposed to be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think through an arduous, long process, we are getting to a point where the Conservation Commission is, I don't want to say satisfied, but I want to say that we're at least wrapping this up with them the best that we can.
Okay, so I just want to jump in for a second. So when this came to my attention, and that's the reason I thought, first of all, let's just clean up paperwork wise on what was supposed to be done. And,
sure.
And all you spoke to, that's the purview of the Conservation Commission. But I did want to point out to the board, Eric, if you could, since this is your screen, on the original plan, just
Yep.
point out to the board where the tree line is, the limit of clearing, if you will.
Yeah,
Especially not so much in relation to the 100-foot buffer, because that's again not a but like around between the existing, down in that neck. So you see it was going to be there and then across the street, over,
around here. And then back down there. That is the area that was to be carved out per the original plan.
And then on the plan that you're proposing, basically everything within, everything's been clear, right?
It's been cleared. Let me kind of do the same.
And for me, I'm thinking more in the, it's a couple things have changed. I'm talking about at sort of at the beginning of the common driveway, if you will, the bottom of it, where the flare is, the two septic systems. So the southern version, right, that neck of the woods.
Down
So
here.
I just wanted to bring to the board's attention, you might say, hey, because, okay, when we approve these things, they're all different, but I go back, I think about the bylaws, and this is a special permit. So what was special about this? Well, okay, well, in return for this, not having to build the whole road and everything, well, we're trying to maintain some of Easton's rural character. So we were leaving trees, between the existing, if you look to the plan to the left with Eric marked it in green, there's trees between the existing house.
Sure.
And to the right, and you may say, hey, that's fine, no big deal, none of our business, we're not back there. If it had come in the way it is, maybe we still would have approved it. Maybe we would have asked for a little landscaping. Hey, could you put some trees in here to give some buffer? Because I've heard a few of us say, oh, I hate to have houses right in someone's backyard. Well, mature trees, like there was a nice, mature forest there, can take some of that away. So I just wanted to bring that up and see if we, as a board, you guys feel that, anything needs to be changed from what they've done, or you're okay with what they're proposing? So that was my.
At the meetings, the woman that lived right in front there, she came to almost every meeting, and she wasn't even against the project. It was more that she was hoping to maintain some privacy. So that was really like an important consideration of the approving this kind of this odd layout in the first place. So I'm not sure what we can do now or what you're thinking about doing here, but just maybe some more tree replacement, Greg, is that?
Well, I mean, I thought the same thing. I remember we did the site walk, and I thought, in people's backyards, look, they can do what they want, and everything in the middle was going to be gone anyways, just because of the nature. But where Eric just drew that orange, but I was also thinking that's not a very, that's okay. So you can put some trees or bushes in the line, but maybe in the front of these two, I keep pointing, but you can't see me, but the beginning of these first two lots between your orange zone that you just drew, between the existing driveway and the septic systems, maybe if they could scatter. I mean, if you wanted to try to effectively buffer, I think if we put some mature trees in that neighborhood, it would.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise they already have an approved plan in that, so, right.
Mr. Chairman, can I just add a comment?
Sure.
This area here where I did draw this little orange or red circle, just two things to note. They did not cut the trees in this area, which is good. And they did add a 6-foot tall cedar fence to that area to create a better buffer between that woman and the project, which is good. But with regard to some landscape plantings and things in the area up front here, as you're suggesting, I think that's something that we can live with if the board feels that that's something that they want to condition.
Personally, I would like to see that, because then I could feel that we're, it was more in line with the bylaw or the special permit. But that's just me. I'd like to, hear from my. Do you guys think that's an overreach? Do you think that's a good idea?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, it's almost as though we could pretty much get it back to the condition that we had previously approved, and I think it would be a great idea.
Any other comments?
Greg,
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Stephanie.
no, I'll speak after, if Greg will, after the board members speak.
Sure. Go ahead, Deb.
So my only comment is that originally the houses were, and again, I know it was a placeholder, were angled so that as you approach them, there was maybe a little bit of interest. I think now, where they're exactly parallel to each other and the garages and driveways are exactly positioned across from each other, I wonder if one of them could either slide forward or backward, or could be mirrored to at least maybe try to get a little bit more of that rural character that we were talking about.
Good idea.
Eric?
So Greg,
Oh, go ahead.
I would echo what Deb just said. I mean, while it's a little bit unusual, the way it was configured previously, it did have a little more visual appeal, gave a little more buffer between all the new units. Also, it looks like there's more pavement that's going to result with the new proposed design. And again, I think that was one of the things, and I know it was trying to eliminate that unnecessary pavement on the western portion, but
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the pavement might be close, but I think to Deb's point, I think that's a really good point. If whether you flipped a house or you took, I mean, if this was, let's say this was the first time we were looking at this, yeah, I would probably say, hey, do you, it's same footprint 3 times. Okay, and that's what. But can we, maybe not have those 2 driveways line up exactly, or could you flip one of the houses, or, or put it on a little bit of an angle? Because that's what we liked about that first one. So it's a little tricky. Remember, I kind of mentioned this to you, Eric. I was like, it's hard. We go in and we put a lot of thought into these things, and I think thoughtful comments, and we got got this through pretty quick and approved, and then the plan wasn't followed. So it's it's frustrating, but life happens, and it is what it is. So
and at the same time, on that same note, though, like the opening up of the property line to lot 2 actually makes it look, I think that looks better than than the original plan. The way he wants to cut those corners, that's actually nice. So
no, he doesn't want to cut the corners.
Oh, we're adding the corners here, right?
Yeah, the one on the left is what we approved. The one on the right is what.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't want to break your heart on that one.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I started looking left to right. So.
Short version is this. We need the board's vote. Board's approval. I'm glad to take all these things back to my client and have this conversation with him. It's kind of a 2-tiered conversation that I have at this point, because my client is the owner. He may have a buyer lined up, things like that. So I've got a chain of command I have to run through, but I'm glad to have that conversation and come back.
Okay. Understand. So then if and I'll throw this back in case there's any more. Oh, and I see some hands in the air too. We have to check, but just I'd say, okay. And because I'd rather see you get wrapped up with Concom first anyways, right? And then you add some of the plantings like we talked about in front. And I'd like to see that fence in the plan since it's there. That makes sense, I think, to put that 6-foot fence you talked about. And then see what you can do with footprint locations and mirroring. Okay, first one's about South Street. Oh, Amas is here.
yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just see a woman named Jen has her hand raised.
But regarding South Street. So we'll.
Okay.
Okay. So we don't really need to take a vote on this, right? This is just kind of a discussion. So Eric, you're gonna revise this and put on whatever you have with Concom, and then come on back.
Yeah. Okay. Are we formally continuing? Can I get on the next meeting, or how do we do that? Whereas this isn't a.
Definitely. How do you want to? I think just make it an agenda item, right? Because this would be a modification of a special permit, right? I guess. So
Okay.
we won't vote on it tonight. This is just a discussion tonight.
Sure.
And then, all right, and then we'll just put them on the same, whatever it's classified as, we'll just put them on the next agenda. Correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Good evening, Amas. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Eric, you're a free man. Good luck with Concom.
Well, thank you all for your time. I appreciate it, and we'll see you at the next meeting.
All right. So next up, we have a continued public hearing for 20 South Street, Old Forge Commons. I'm going to take 10. I just got to get something I printed up on my print. Be back in 10 seconds.
Okay, in the meantime, I will promote the applicant. And Bill, if you could let me know, we have yourself, Frank and Walter. If there's anyone else, please let me know.
Good evening, everyone. Hello.
Stephanie, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I don't know why I'm not coming up on the screen.
Okay, hey, Bill, if you could just mute yourself for a second. No,
Okay.
I'm gonna take the floor here for a little bit. So first, I know, so we're on to South Street. So Bob Stetson is going to recuse himself. So Bob, we'll text you.
Yep.
You need, and I want to put this on the record so there's no confusion when we're all dead and buried. So we opened this public hearing. Hold on, get my notes. Hang on a second. Okay, so we opened this public hearing on October 18th, 2021. And in the minutes from that night, amongst the minutes from that night, Bob Stetson had some comments or questions. Following that meeting, at some point, circumstances arose that he felt required himself to recuse himself from this project. This is the first this is the first continuance of that public hearing that's occurred since then. So just going forward, it'll say he's recused himself, but if there's ever any question why he participated in the first meeting, because at that point, there was no reason for him to recuse himself. So, so quickly, as the chair of the committee, I want to very quickly summarize where we're at, how we got here, and I want to address a couple things that came up. So, as you recall, so this is a special permit application for flexible development, and we had a number. The board, and along with Stephanie and her staff, we had a number of informal meetings and through a 1 or 2 year period discussing possibilities for this land, and discussing a flexible development. So much is called out in the flexible development bylaw. Then there were some public hearings. I'm sorry, some neighborhood meetings that were actually related to the Furnace Village economic development, but this partial and possibility of flexible development and other development options was discussed. So there was some interaction without any plan in front of us, just with the neighbors at that point. December 14th, 2020, we held Planning and Zoning Board. We held a pre-application review meeting. It was an open public meeting. Questions, a presentation was given by the developer. Questions were asked by the board and by the public. And then, like I said, then they went off and based on comments from that meeting, started their full set to come in to an application for flexible development. And like I said, that meeting occurred on October 18th, 2021. At that time, peer review was just starting with stormwater management. And as happens sometimes, the peer review took longer than perhaps anticipated for no reason or no fault or no bad doing. It was just engineering. As much as you think it's finite, it is variable. Get 10 engineers together and you can very well come up with 10 different solutions depending on what you're trying to engineer. So we received a request to continue, I don't know, 15 or 20 times since then, and then here we are tonight. And I received kind of a troubling email this morning, and the exact content of it doesn't matter, but it talked about how this board was just going to rubber stamp. I want to be accurate. Just bear with me here for a second. Yeah, it's very apparent the board intends to rubber stamp the approval immediately following beta peer review. And also in here says that the chair of this board does whatever the developer tells him or something like that. and I'm thick-skinned, and the board's thick-skinned. I'm not bringing up, I'm not complaining about that. I'm not whining about that. That's the price of public service. But I do want to say for the record, and for anyone that's listening, that there have been correspondence with some of the abutters and other interested parties in this project to the applicant, to Stephanie Danielson, the town planner, and her department, and to the town hall. Hasn't been to this board because there really can't be. I know Stephanie's been out a few times to meet with folks. As in my capacity as chair or any other member of this board, we can't really do that. Once that'd be a violation of the public meeting process. We have anxiously, now I'm very involved as the chair should be in these things in town. And I've had many discussions with Stephanie regarding the process of what's been going on with the engineering, and we'll hear about some of that tonight. And it's interesting, if you go back to the night of the opening of the public hearing, I'm right in the minutes of saying that this is just the first meeting, and there will be at least 1 to 3 more meetings on this. I mean, you never really know how many meetings it takes. Sometimes plans come in and don't have to be tweaked. And then I know there was a request from one of the abutters that was sent in writing and also relayed by one of his neighbors. Back a few months back, we thought we were going to be having a hearing, and a abutter was going to be out of town, and they requested that the request came in that they would like us to not open the hearing that night because someone was in town. And I thought, and I'm a stickler for a regulatory process and for process and for fairness. But there's rules and regs that guide all of this. And, sometimes situations, we're all volunteers, situations come up, we don't always get to anticipate, and we're all on TV. So it's dicey and interesting, but I'm proud of how this board acts. And I said that night, that we wouldn't postpone a meeting because an abutter was going to be out of town, because I don't think that's fair to the process. But I also gave a commitment that night that we would not be closing the public hearing that night. So although much has been, there's been a lot of input from the abutters on this project and other interested parties, as there should be. We welcome that and glad it's there. So for a statement to come out that we're just going to rubber stamp this tonight, there's no evidence of that. We don't have a track record of that. I'm only addressing it because it was out in the ether. And unfortunately, that's what we have to do this day and age. If I don't address it, then maybe there's a stigma there, or maybe there's a bias, or maybe there's a prejudice. So anyways, I just wanted to say that. I hope you all understand the context in which I say it. So what we're going to do tonight, since it's been a while, I'm going to ask the applicants to give us a real quick summary of the project again, and then talk about what has changed since you were here last, what revised, and we don't have to get deep into the weeds on engineering calcs, just the meat and the sexy stuff, and then we will. I'll ask Stephanie to give her a staff report or anything she wants to relay from that, and then the board will ask questions or give comments, and then we will open it up to the public. I ask the public, as always, to identify yourself, name and address for the record. And I know, and it's been a while, so I'll give a little leeway, but I'm looking for, we don't need to repeat the same comment 5 times. Let's keep this moving forward in terms of process, so everybody can be heard. And anyway, so with that, I've babbled on long enough. So Mr. Humphreys, the floor is yours. And if you guys, just identify yourself, name and address. And
Sure.
if you want to share screens, go ahead.
3 Mullen Lane, North Easton. Thanks, Greg. Greg, I first of all, guys, I've been doing this for 41 years. I've been in business, and sometimes I hear I see what happens, and I've been building in 35 towns too, and there's a process that everybody knows of that happens. You guys understand it, but abutters don't. And in all the towns and all the subdivisions I've built, there's a process that you have to follow. Nothing's done wrongly. You're trying to do it the right way. You're trying to do it so the neighbors won't be affected by water, drainage, tree cutting, or whatever, homes, etc., overbuilding. There's so many variations. And on this particular one here, because of the new changes with stormwater that we've run into, it's very difficult to on a project to get the stormwater to work. That's why we've been having. That's what the delays have been on this. When I purchased this property, I was very excited about it because I knew there wasn't going to be a lot of land clearing, a lot of tree cutting, a lot of fills, etc. So that's what excited me about this and the area that it is. I thought I was going to do a really nice project here, which I am going to. But again, with the stormwater, there is wetlands on a very small part of the project. And we want to stay outside the 100-foot buffer on that. And that's what's been the tricky part of this. So fortunately, my engineers worked very hard with the town and with the peer engineers. And we finally got around all those hurdles. It took a while. It was frustrating, but we're there. But that's been the trouble with this. It's all because of stormwater. And we didn't want to encroach the 100-foot buffer because the town of Easton, the Conservation Commission, who do a great job. I was on the board for a few years, and so I understand their outlook of properties. They don't want to see any disturbance within 100 feet of that wetland. So good for the town of Easton that they do that. So we're trying to abide by their laws and stay out of that. We could have went forward and got inside the 100-foot buffer going with the 50-foot. And I think it would have gone well, but I'd rather stay outside of their jurisdiction, make them happy, make the town of Easton happy. And that's been the trouble with this. So we finally got there. It's been a lot of work and a lot of frustration, but we're finally there with everything. And thanks for being patient with us with all these extensions, guys. I'm sorry for that, but this is a lot of work for my guys to get this through. And I'm going to let my engineers take over that, Frank and Walter especially, who worked hard on this here with the peer review to get this approved, or not approved, but to get it to where they're very satisfied with what we did.
Thank you very much, Bill. I appreciate the kind words. Yes, it has been a hard project. And again, it all comes down to stormwater. But through the numerous iterations that we've gone through and been peer reviewed, we've incorporated comments from the peer reviewer. And we have a product right now that to note a change from the very beginning. Well, we started with an infiltration basin up high on the project and a constructed wetlands down below. We're back to an infiltration basin further up on the project, and it's just higher than it was originally. And that was due to a determination of groundwater elevation. So there was some fill required for the roadway. The constructed wetlands, to note a difference for that, that's been doubled up in size. So we have 2 BMPs here that are capturing a significant amount of runoff from the project. And all the catch basins on the project have been sized accordingly. So we do not have any runoff leaving the property in excess of the existing conditions. We understand the neighborhood's concerns with runoff. The peer reviewer kept us in check on the runoff calculations. And we have calculated all storm events through the entire duration of the event. And what that means is, especially for the constructed wetlands, when the water returns to the normal pool elevation, and that might be several days before it bleeds through a small opening on an outlet control structure, but you have to account for that entire volume over that entire storm event, not just 24 hours, but until it returns to a normal pool elevation. And we have done that, we've proven it, and our numbers are less than the existing conditions by a significant margin. We have a very nice subdivision. We've maintained the 25-foot buffer, if not more, all around the entire project, less the minimal area that we needed for the constructed wetlands on the very southern end of the project. But to compensate for that small limited area where it's less than 25 feet, we are proposing plantings on the berm, and we're also maintaining the 10-foot vegetated buffer around that property line that exists right now. The berm will not be too substantial in height, and it's only high enough just to retain the most tremendous storm event that we have to design for a 30-year event. The constructed wetlands will easily receive all the water that's going to be coming its way, and for the most part, we will not receive any infiltration credit because that's what the state mandates. But the wetlands will absorb the water, and there will be some infiltration that will naturally occur anyhow, evapotranspiration and so forth. In addition to those stormwater features, nothing has changed since the beginning regarding the roof. We still have dry wells for all the roofs. We are sticking with the pavement for the roadway. We have a storm septic unit at the entrance. We have some catch basins that are in sag, just a slight dip, and that's to make sure that there's no
Excuse me,
bypass.
Walter, I hate to do this, but do you have the ability, I'd love it if you could put the project up on your screen. Can you share it? That way, as you're telling us about these features, you can point it
Yeah.
out so folks can follow along.
Yeah.
Like where the lots are
Great.
now, how, I'd like to, like I said, I'd like to see how, the drainage has changed a little bit, where those are and the accessibility and all, if we could tie that in with the plan,
Okay.
I think that might be easier for the board and for the folks at home to follow along with. So sorry to interrupt.
While he's pulling that up, Mr. Chairman, in that berm that Walter was talking about also, we're not taking down any forest in that area. It's all just scrub and field. So we're actually where we're building that berm that he's talking about, where we're not outside the 25-foot area, we're adding trees to an area that doesn't have trees.
I have it up on my screen, Mr. Chairman. Stephanie, do I need permission to share the screen?
No, feel free,
No,
go ahead and share.
You can just click on the green share screen at the bottom. You should see at the bottom of your screen, the Zoom screen, you should see.
Oh, here we go. Okay. All right.
Greg, in the interest of time, do you want me to share my screen? Ah, there we go. Oh, it was there for a brief second.
There we go.
Yep, we see it.
Let me see if I get the right plan up here. My apologies, my system's running a little slow.
Do you want Stephanie to share her screen?
How are we doing now? Can you see this?
No, it's just a gray box,
Oh,
right? I don't see anybody else. I don't see anything. Anybody else?
No.
Yeah, I just see gray. So if you stop sharing your screen, Walter, I can share mine.
okay. Go ahead, Stephanie.
All right, actually, I can just stop you myself. There we go. Okay. Okay, can everyone, let me move some of this stuff. Everybody can see
Mm-hmm.
plan?
Yes, I can. Oh,
Okay. So I believe, and Walter, you can kind of, but I'll start by saying, I believe this is the area you were just describing.
Yep, right there, Stephanie, along that boundary, exactly. That's where we're going to maintain what vegetation is there. And there will also be additional vegetation planted along that berm in order to make up the effect of having a 25-foot buffer in that one exclusive area.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just ask for clarification, I mean, I understand this. I want to make sure everyone else does. A constructed wetland looks like a wetland system. It looks like a vegetated area. Correct?
Right, that wetlands that is a vegetated wetlands. That's correct, Stephanie. It's a constructed wetlands. It'll have a low marsh and a high marsh, and there are plantings proposed, and they're actually on the last sheet of the subdivision, but this, for sake of brevity, I wouldn't go to sheet 17 at the moment. If you could go to the next sheet, which is sheet 8.
Is that what you wanted me to?
That's correct, Stephanie. That's perfect. You can see there's substantial buffer that's maintained between the neighbors and the infiltration basin. We even pulled that in slightly to gain an additional 6 feet of buffer between the property boundary and the limits of the infiltration basin. The open space, by the way, amounts to over 7 acres of the property. And that 7.6 acres is roughly 46% of the entire parcel size. If you go to the top right of that screen, Stephanie, please. One deviation, one improvement we made since the original submittal. We realigned the water line that's leaving the cul-de-sac in just such a manner that it will not follow along the property boundary. It'll actually come through an interior lot and go straight to the corner. Again, for the sake of trying to maintain as much vegetated buffer as possible between the neighbors to the west and the subject site. One other improvement we made to the subject property. It's a minor engineering issue, but we had a slight hump in the road between the entrance and the bend. You don't have to go to that, Stephanie, but we were able to take that out so it'll be a nicer transition. And if you could stay right on that screen, this lot 15, this was formerly lot 3, which would be the third lot as you came in on the right side of the subdivision. Because we had to increase the constructed wetlands, we basically doubled it in size. This lot went down to the end where the cul-de-sac is, all the while still maintaining all the open space and access to open space. This actually increased the curb appeal of the subdivision for everybody involved. For now, that's about it for the improvements. We went back and forth significantly, a lot of hard engineering involved, and all the standards for the state have been met and or exceeded. Infiltration, TSS removal, pollutant removal. The constructed wetlands will remove a tremendous amount of pollution, but every one of the catch basins will have hoods on them. We have sumps. We're meeting all the standards required of the state and of the town. Frank or Bill, if you think of anything you want to add right now, by all means.
Well, I know what I'd like to add is the detention basin that we're talking about, that's on the east side that we're talking about right now. That's
Right
got,
at the bottom of the screen.
yeah, that's gotten smaller. And that was with the help of Gary, the engineer. That was the he helped us.
Peer review.
Yeah, the peer review engineer gave us some input on that, and it made it smaller, which was great, and so obviously less trees being cut, and then that just for everybody to know on that the basin there, that is that's grass. That's going to be all a grass area.
Okay. So is that it for the first go around with your team?
Yes.
Okay.
Frank, do you have anything?
Stephanie, do you want me to throw it to the board first, or would you like to go first?
Why don't you throw it to the board first and then I can fill in anything they might not bring up or.
Okay. So I'm just gonna go real quick because there's just one thing instead of throwing it. So safe to say that I think the biggest changes in terms of layout of this since we looked at the first is that at the entrance from South Street there, and help me, there originally were 4 lots there, correct?
3.
There were 3,
There was
okay.
3 lots.
There's 3 lots. So what you've done is one was moved out of there for the stormwater management, and then a lot was added. That lot was kind of transferred up towards the cul-de-sac a little bit. Basically, what you transferred some of the open space. There's more open space on the southern end now, a little more, and a little less on the northern end. Right. I think that's the
We
main.
just transferred the lot. That's correct.
Yeah, that's the main change. So just real quick, I'll throw this to the board. The two things at this point that I see, I think it's important to get public access because we know from the feedback we've gotten through this entire process from the neighborhood, you know, they were really excited, and I felt that the open space was important, and they liked having access to it. So I think, and here's the beauty of the flexible development, I think we should take a little bit of land, whether it's lot 11 or lot 12, or you have that easement for the water line. I think we maybe should just put a little, just natural, you don't have to build anything, but I think we should put access in there directly from the road to the open space. That way, you don't have to worry about any ambiguity with a fence, property owner, for example, putting a fence up by mistake that blocks it or something. So just a thought. And then I'm just wondering on I'll call it the northern, or it's on the western end, I guess. No, it's eastern end. So the infiltration basin that's closest to the cul-de-sac, calls out a gravel access drive from the road. And I'm just wondering, gravel access roads are what they are, and I understand why you have to have it. But should we maybe consider instead doing sort of the reinforced turf, like the concrete, sort of the precast concrete pavers that grass grows through? I wonder if that would be, it could stay, whatever grows, it could be just native species out there, but that might look a little nicer than gravel, because gravel's just going to fill up with weeds anyways, probably. Right there. So those are just my 2 thoughts at this point, and I'll throw it out to the board. Anything you guys, questions you have at this point? Or comments?
Yeah, so I mean, when we did the site walk and at the earlier meetings, and as was kind of mentioned by the applicant, that they liked how the layout where the existing grade could remain to a certain extent. Like, how much higher does the road have to go now than say the existing elevation?
Was it 1.2 feet? And it's just for us. It's just in the station. What station was it? 700, Walter?
I couldn't quite hear what Peter was saying. Are we talking?
He was
right
talking
here?
about where's the road raising up 1.5 feet or 1.2 feet?
Oh, yes, right here, right at DMH3, right at the entrance.
Once you do lot numbers, might be easier for.
Yeah, that would be easier for me.
Okay, right between lots 6 and 7, at the beginning of the access to the infiltration basin.
Okay.
Okay.
Right around in that
Yeah,
area
yeah,
is
you
where
can
the
see it,
roadway
right.
had to come up.
And
Yeah.
what was it, Walter? 1.2 feet?
Thereabouts, yes, Bill.
Yeah.
So one thing I would bring up, just, and I would get a lot of this from Stephanie would inform me on this when she was dealing with the peer reviewers and with the development team, that part of the reason this took so long to get back here was they were wanting to make sure they could maintain the road at the lower elevation so it would fit into so much of what we talked about, keeping the existing trees and all of that, so.
That's a good point.
Okay, so is it the whole road more or less that's up? I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's up a foot or a foot and a half for the entire length of the road, more or less, except maybe towards the end, or not, or just those 2 sections.
It's just that section.
Right,
Okay.
there was for some length in both directions. As you get nearer to the top of the road, we'll actually cast water towards the cul-de-sac. That'll be the crest of the road.
Yep.
But it's all drain and back down to the access easement and into the infiltration basin. We have a
Okay.
very nice transition throughout the entire roadway. So there is no appreciable rise or hump that would be so noticeable that it would be a distraction.
And that won't affect the ability to save quite a few trees like we talked about, right? Because the grades, the change so minimal that you can just grade that down and it won't require those tree removal. Okay. And what about the perk test? Like, since you've done so many perk tests out there, test pits out there, right? I mean, you do the homes have to go way up, or how high will some of the foundations be? Top of foundation from the existing grade.
Well,
Well, we
they
don't
were only
we don't
raised,
know that right now, Peter. That's with what the road was raised at 1.2 feet at Station 700, which was lot 6 and 7.
Yeah.
correct.
That just feathers down. What's the road at, Walter? What's the percentage at where it goes feathers down back to the, is it like at lot 4, 4 and 3, it goes back to the height we had before, and then it feathers down back to the cul-de-sac. But regarding what elevation do the houses have to be? We don't know that until, here's the problem that we don't want to get in here. We don't want the carriage pulling the horse. This is what so we know where the water table is, but when we get into building these here, fortunately we have sewer, so there's no septic systems.
Right.
But we still have to go in every lot. Working with the building department right now, I was talking with the building supervisor, and they're going to put together a bylaw, because remember, this is the first subdivision in Easton that has sewer.
Mhm.
So all the towns that I typically deal with sewer, what they require is 2 test holes per lot near where the house is, not in where the house is, because you don't want to disturb underneath the house and you're going to have sinkholes, etc. But typically like one behind the house, one before the house, and you do 2 test holes, determine where the water table is, and that determines where the house is going to be. But to clarify your question, let's say this in front of us here, lot 11. So lot 11, let's say, Stephanie, is there any way you can make that bigger, the screen, so we can see
Yeah.
this thing?
Yeah, this is great though. Thanks for explaining how
I
this
don't
works.
think, hold on, let me get lot 11 because that's not showing it.
So, because Frank has all grades down there, but honestly, these grades, they're just trying to show you what's going on. But
You're gonna have to dig the pits in each lot and or at least every other one and figure out where the water is.
Exactly. So the real lines that are there right now are the dotted lines that you see going through the whole subdivision. You see these little dotted lines going through. That's the real grade line that's there. So ones that I want to just give you an example of what would happen on a lot and what I do when I build, so we don't have to disturb areas. And I went over with the peer engineer. I talked to him about what I do. I'm trying to pick up on a line right now just to give you an elevation, but let's just say lot 14. I'm trying to pick up what the line is, the grade is that's going through that. And I see the line, but I don't see the elevation.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find it. I see the line, but I don't see an elevation.
It's 142.
Oh yeah, it's way down the bottom left.
So
Yeah.
going
here.
through, so if you go through lot 14 and you got 142 going through the center of it there, and let's say if we dig down and water's at where we think it's going to be like 4 feet, what's going to happen is the back of the house would end up being a half walkout or even a full walkout. And then what we try to do is you step the lot up and use retaining walls. So yeah, you need a little bit of fill in the front yard, but you still have to bring the sewer, water, electric lines into there. So you have to clear the front yard. But the nice thing is it's not a lot of clearing because there's no septic system. But what you try to do is if you go into like Winterberry, you could see what we did there. Those houses are on top of each other, but we're able to, it doesn't look like, you can't notice a full walkout because of the way we grade the lots. So I know it's hard to explain, but you have to keep the floor, you should keep it about 2 feet above the water
Yeah, I was
table.
gonna say, right, yeah.
You put
My house is old, but luckily they built it on top, over the water table, except,
Yeah, and you
once
put
every 5 years.
in and all that stuff. You still should go 2 feet, and that's what they all recommend doing. But the fortunate part is we don't have the big giant septic system, so we don't have to worry about breakout and all that. So we can work with retaining walls up around the front of the house and save all the trees.
Yeah, okay, so
My
in other words,
process.
you have to raise it up by like 4 or 6 feet, depending on where.
If I did a house 4, 6 feet, like for instance, if you ever drove into Lexington Estates, all the big houses I built in there, those all have 5 or 6 feet of fill in their front yard. And if you look at them, you think they're all flat lots.
Right, yeah, but you don't have to do that type of fill, because you don't have to accommodate for the septic, and you can
That's
more or less
right.
raise them up, okay.
And that's the
So you
problem.
you know what I'm getting at, because you've seen a lot of other developments, right? And it sounds like saving the trees is great, and then there's a million reasons why like only 2 can remain, right? So that's what we're trying to avoid here.
And honestly, we could have came before you guys a lot quicker with this subdivision if we raised the road 3 feet. We could have came before you a year ago,
Oh, yeah,
but I
we'll
would
just
have had to
have
wipe out every single tree in the subdivision, and I don't want to do that. And that's what I've been fighting, trying to get this approved, and we finally came up with a solution.
Okay, great, yeah. So I guess lot 14 is a good example then. So when you talk about the utilities, they just go under the driveway typically. So that's like, say one of those nice big trees were like 4 feet off the road.
You can
Yeah,
go
like
anywhere
on
with
the corner of lot 14, like that would most likely remain or not?
you can go anywhere with utilities. You can bend them around anything. You can't do it with septic systems, but with even sewer, you can roll sewer, you can roll water, you can roll electric. That's the nice thing about it. You can't roll sewers, septic systems rather.
And
Well,
Peter, I just want,
I'll probably just keep asking about the trees, man.
well,
Just so I can say I did. All right. So
if I could just, Peter, if
right.
I could just
Yeah.
interject real quick, just
Yeah.
since it's been a while to remember, the process that Mr. Humphreys agreed to use with us, given the importance of the trees, we noticed it all on the site walks out there, and there's some beautiful large trees, and they're spaced out so they had some room to grow, a lot of deciduous. After the rough cutting of the road, then remember, we're all going to go on. We're going to go on site and look, because sometimes it doesn't make sense to maybe save one tree by itself. It may go into construction shock or different exposure to wind, but look at where we can really save some substantial groupings of trees. And remember, Bill talked about how that's where we could move around the infiltration from the house, the infiltration trenches for not trenches, devices. So
okay,
anyway,
thanks for reminding me of that.
Yeah. So then that's going to be part, if and when the board votes to approve this, that's going to be part of any decision. So anyways, I just
Cool.
wanted.
All right. Just have one last question. And then the wetland replication or the well, both of the stormwater management areas. Those are, you're keeping the 4 feet above the groundwater, or you need a waiver on or whatever that regulation is? Will that be-
The infiltration basin is set at least 4 feet above the.
Right.
Very.
Because at a certain point, you need a waiver, but you're not going to ask us for a waiver for the less separation, right?
That's correct. No
Okay,
waiver
thanks.
required.
All right, thanks, guys.
Guys, just so Mr. Strange brought forward what I'd like to, well, this is what you do in a subdivision anyway. Before the tree cutters come in, and you're supposed to, Frank Rydland would go out there and he would ribbon the road, like ribbon and stake where the road is for the tree cutters to come in and clear. And the tree cutters follow that line precisely. You do that on any project. You never just say the tree cutters go out there and start cutting.
Yeah, especially with gas being expensive, they don't want to just get carried away out there. That would waste a lot of gas, right? Yeah. So
no, you have to manage that. So Frank would go out there and he would, every 25 feet, he puts ribbons and stakes. We go through that. I walk through it with the tree cutter. They go through it. They know what they got to cut. We go through it. We cut that. And that's the stuff that has to go for the road to be built. And then each individual lot, if you want, I think this might be a better idea, honestly, because every house, these aren't the houses that are there. These are big size homes here, not large, not big homes. These are, every home you'll see there's some are long, some are narrow, etc. So I think each lot, possibly if you want, might be a better source as each lot is being built, as each one is individually looked at for tree
those
shape.
will change too as you have buyers that they want different features. Yeah.
I don't think you can be generic on that because every home's going to be different. But I don't have a problem on each home doing a walkthrough before we go cutting trees, guys. We can stake the tree, the house where it's going, and we can go out and ribbon the trees that we can save. We can do that on every lot. I do that anyway, so
Yeah.
I have no problem with it. It's nothing for me.
Yeah, you could even just maybe notify Stephanie and, and Greg or whatever, and then someone can, make sure someone knows that you're doing it and they can stop by if they want to.
Yep.
Thank you.
Peter, do you have anything else? You're good? All right. Amas or Deb, any questions or comments?
I would like to know what ideas they have for public access to the open space. Any one of you can, or is something you haven't think, you do not have anything thoughts about.
What did you want to know about the access to the public space?
What there has been discussed many times that the open space and the neighbors and everyone else wanted to be able to access, and that was mentioned by Greg at the beginning of the, but there is now anything concrete about what ideas you have in order to improve that existing path that you have there, the easement to the water.
I could try to answer that for you, Amas.
Okay.
Greg brought up a good point about maybe describing the access better from lot 11 to the open space. That is one of 3 points where we have open space, where someone can access the open space. The second one, if Stephanie could go down the screen to the beginning of the access easement for the infiltration basin between lot 6 and 7. That entire access easement, that's also access to the open space, albeit you have to walk along the infiltration basin, but it is continuous and second point of access. And then on the sheet that Stephanie's bringing up right now, right after lot 2, as you come into the subdivision, the entire bend in the road is actually access to open space. The entire remaining woodlands, where we're staying 100 feet away from the BBW, and throughout the entire constructed wetlands. But this also connects continuously with all the open space that wraps around the project. So we have 3 points of open space available to the public for their access to that open space.
Regarding the open space that Walter was just referring to at the southerly end between lots 2 and 3, that's a little bit over 200 feet of continuous frontage that would grant access to the open space.
Did that answer your question, Amas?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Anything else?
Add one other thing too,
Go
Mr.
ahead,
Chairman.
Bill.
So just down in the town of Rainham, I had a large parcel that and I did this in Norton also, that they had a roadway to access the open space. And what we ended up doing, an engineer by the name of Chris Yarworth out of Norton came up with this idea. So what he did is through those egress ways, let's say down in the cul-de-sac. Stephanie, could you go to the northerly part of the, towards the cul-de-sac, please? All right, so you see that egress, that's access and utility easement. So the water line's under there. So what we ended up doing is we took what's called dense grade, and we went 20 feet wide and we put dense grade all over the area. Then what we did is we loamed the side and loamed the middle, and we left like a 4 foot path with 4 feet in the middle, then 4 foot path. So it was all grass except for where the tire tracks are. And again, this is when I create this here. So what would happen is the association, that area there where the lawn is, it can be part of the association. That could be a path, not only driven, so if there was ever a problem with the water or whatever, it can be accessed, but you can walk that area and you can mow the grass in the middle in between the tire, where the tires go, and people can walk that way. And I did that in Norton in one of my subdivisions, I did it in Rainham, one of my subdivisions. And again, I put this in the HOA, so it had to be mowed. So it's a path that you can walk thousands of feet, and it's always taken care of. You don't have to worry about sticks growing, branches growing up, trees, etc. It's maintained. I'm just throwing that out to you. It really worked out too well with those two towns.
Okay, so sounds very good.
So just to follow up on that, would that technically be an easement that is on the deed for that particular lot?
Yes.
Okay. And I like the thought of that product that you're talking about. I think Greg mentioned maybe substituting something for the gravel, which I was going to suggest maybe even just like a geomat or something where it's drivable, but it just looks like it's grass. So I think any of those options might be something to consider. I also think it might be worthwhile if there was some way of demarking that easement or path existed to the public, because over time, if it's not well used or it's not an owner that's especially happy about people walking the path, it might be unclear that that is actually something that, you know, is open to the public. So I'm not sure what that is, but I just want, you know, whether that's signage or some kind of rock, or again, I like your idea of the association maintaining it, so that kind of makes it a little bit more clear. My other question was, so I know that you talked about a little bit of the shifting for the basin and the three different open space areas. Just to clarify, the number of lots has remained the same. I'm wondering, has the square footage of the total lots versus the open space also remained the same, or how has the number shifted? I think there might have been mentioned, but I didn't hear any actual numbers.
I would defer to Frank on that one.
There has been some very minor shifts in lot lines. The percentage will stay within 1 or 2 percentage points of what was originally proposed as far as the total open area versus lots. And we have included a table that shows this percentage. The total upland area of the site, or open space rather, is almost 46%, 45.56% of the site is open space. So almost half the site is dedicated for open space. That's within 1 or 2 percentage points of the original preliminary proposals.
That in 1 or 2% greater than the original proposals, or less than?
I would have
sounds like it's roughly about the same, but
I would have to go back to the original proposals to guarantee which way it went. I know it stayed extremely close, but I would not say that it was either greater or less. I know it's very close. So.
Okay. And I also just would like to comment that I appreciate the consideration of the height of the roadway and the efforts to minimize the tree cutting or to spend special attention as each of the lots develop. So I think that definitely will help with the character of that area. And again, I appreciate that consideration.
We're trying hard to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just back to just a really fast, back just to the easement for the northern open space access. Why don't you just make the easement part of the open space? Then there's not that weird question of why people are walking across lot 11's land to go to the open space.
Yeah, that would be my preference also.
Yeah, I mean, just do it. I mean, it's not, unless you have a compelling reason that convince us not.
No, and again,
I would agree.
We'll be in the HOA to keep that maintained too. We'll put that in.
Right, so yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. It just eliminates any conflict, any ambiguity.
Yep.
Okay, so board members, any more comments before I turn it to Stephanie?
One last comment is that, you know, when we eventually do the if we have come to the point where we make a decision with conditions, we have to figure out how to keep the buffer sort of hopefully acting like a buffer rather than just having the people cut the trees down as time goes by.
Yep, point noted.
But I just wanted to say it.
You know what
Okay,
else I would do too is on this, on the access, the utility easement access there. And I would do this, I think it would be good for the public and good for the neighbors, is along lot 12 and lot 11. I could do, which would look nice, is I could do a treed line going down each, as you enter in on either side, I could tree it.
Yep. Yeah, I thought about that too. Yeah.
They would feel, so the neighbors would like it because I'm saying the neighbors lot 11, lot 12 would like it because they don't see anybody walking there. But then the people that are walking through there
Yep.
feel more comfortable because they're not looking at the houses.
Mhm. Yeah, and there were already some existing large trees in that section anyways, right? So
But
combined,
people, I'd do something that would be, you'd put like maybe about 4 or 5 different native species trees that make it just seem more rural. It would just seem like you're walking on a path. It would be pretty cool.
sounds good. All right, I want to move this along a little bit because I know we're going to have a lot of people that want to chime in. So Stephanie, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'm going to wrap up on the access to the open space. I'm going to start with that first, even though that was one of my later comments. A lot of what we've discussed were the things that I was thinking and suggesting, especially making it very clear that there was a path and maintaining that path along that utility easement and the buffer zone there. I don't know, maybe even if this is open to the public, maybe even having like right at the entrance of the path, like a little split rail fence on either side that indicates that that's a pathway and an entranceway, so people can tell very easily. I mean, this might be accomplished with the tree plantings that Bill was just talking about. Going back to some of my earlier comments, one of something that the board hasn't talked about at this meeting is retaining the existing dwelling and refurbishing it. That was one of the things that was discussed. And I think that that's something the board would want to incorporate into the decision.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to move the screen a little bit, and we have some language we just used that might make sense there. So, you know, I'll draft that when we get there. But very similar to a house that's being preserved as part of the Union Ledge project that was a 40B, just recently approved by the Board of Appeals. So everywhere where the property abuts existing residential, they have shown the 25-foot buffer and, you know, explained what's going on over here with the constructed wetland. But in this area, there is not a 25-foot buffer. And I'm not sure why that is or why that one couldn't be.
It's an existing dwelling, Stephanie.
Okay, but is that something, is that,
The driveway is already installed, the house is there, the grass is there, it's an existing dwelling.
so should this, what's there as a buffer be shown as a retained buffer? So you do show a tree line here.
There is a tree line there, there is, I don't have a problem with that. There's a lot of heavy trees there.
Yeah, so that would be my suggestion, that maybe that be shown as, it may be a lesser because it's pre-existing, but that buffer be retained.
You do notice though, on the plan, it says barn to be raised. And I do know that the commission said that, you know, I have to address that and go before them, but that, I don't know if you've seen that barn, it's falling, right now it's falling over, it's falling in.
We saw that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about the dwelling.
Yeah, that we've always said that we're saving
Right.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was it's a beautiful house.
Yeah. Let's
I would even ask, because
Hey, Bill, if we could just let Stephanie, this is gonna be a long meeting.
Yeah,
and,
because
if
then
we
I-
could just let Stephanie stay on point, I
I
appreciate
mean,
it.
I think the board has covered many of the other questions and comments that I had. There were just procedural and other comments that will be addressed through the decision process.
Okay, and,
And
and
don't
like I
change.
said, right, and this hardly is the first night. All right, so now I'm going to go through, we have quite a few comments here. So I'm gonna start with the Q&A. It's just in the order they came in. My name is Jennifer Carroll at 19 Lancelot Lane. I wanted to identify myself as having a question regarding the South Street development. So Jen, I see your hand. So can you see that? Stephanie, can you see
Oh,
Jen?
sorry. Yep.
There's her hand up. And I'd ask when you're on, we need your name and address for the record, please, and then ask your question, make your comment.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Carroll. I live at 19 Lancelot Lane.
Welcome.
Hi, I've been following your meeting pretty consistently. I had an opportunity to look over the plans and I've been trying to kind of look through everything, but I'm not a developer, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not really sure what I'm looking at the structure that's going up behind my home. I'm not sure where it comes into the lot. I did have my land recently surveyed, and the surveyor had looked at my plan and had said that you guys were planning on putting a basin directly behind where my home is. And I kind of wanted to know the schematics of that, how it will affect my property. I wanted to know, will the structure be noisy? Will the structure, because I don't know what it is, will it attract mosquitoes? Because I understand there's another kind of water basin. And I wanted to know how that will be maintained and who will be the person in charge of maintaining that.
Okay, great question. So let's ask the engineering team to answer those questions. And so you guys know 19 Lancelot, so she's talking about the Eastern infiltration basin.
Right here.
All right, I can field those questions. Pardon me if I don't remember all of them. I think there was maybe 5 or 6 involved.
What does it look like? How does it function? Does it make noise? How does it affect your property?
Right. Well, for starters, it will not affect any of these lots. It will not affect any abutting lots whatsoever. This is an infiltration basin that is designed to temporarily retain stormwater running off of the subdivision, and it will infiltrate the water in less than 72 hours. If we have too much water, we have an outlet control structure designed to release some of the water following the natural path that is taking under existing conditions, and it will trickle down through the woods, through the vegetated area, and head to the wetlands. This is a earthen berm structure, grass bottom. There will be no noise that it makes once completed. It's very quiet, and there's substantial buffer between the basin and the abutting properties. So you may be hard pressed to even see it. Essentially, it's going to be a rather big hole in the ground. If you look on the northerly side, it's almost at the existing grade. It actually is at existing grade. On the southerly side, we have to build it up a little bit because the bottom of the basin has to be just about level. But it is a shallow basin. It is 4 feet above the water table. And again, it's going to infiltrate a tremendous amount of water. I've done calculations many times over, and they've been peer reviewed, that this basin is quite large, only large enough that's required in order to retain sufficient water. So we don't send it off too fast and not too much. And after development, the conditions are going to be where there's less water coming down that natural pathway than there currently is right now. Did I answer all the questions?
There I am. I wanted to know if that basin will attract mosquitoes, seeing how Easton has had several, years where we had the triple E and that is concerned of how that will attract and whether or not the Beta people had approved it. I hear you guys talking about different, this independent reviewers. I wanted to make sure that was the Beta organization that's approved that plan. We also have such bad water quality in the area. I also want to know if there's any risk of this affecting our water quality.
No, it should not attract mosquitoes. Again, the water is designed to infiltrate in less than 72 hours. I don't recall the exact number based on the model calculations, but it is from less than a day to maybe a day and a half at best that the water would stay ponded in this infiltration basin. There is no hazard that it poses to water conditions in the area. And was there another question there that you asked?
I wanted to know who maintained it. If
Okay,
is
who
there
maintained
somebody
it?
who will check on it and making sure that it is it's draining properly and the water is not standing for extended periods of time?
Right, that's a good point. The maintenance of this structure and any other of what we call our best management practices, BMPs, that's catch basins, constructed wetlands, and including this infiltration basin, falls under an operation and maintenance plan, which we submitted in the stormwater management report. It's also part of, combined with long-term pollution prevention plan. We put them both together, and they it's the homeowners association. Once the land is conveyed, they have the responsibility to maintain these structures. This one here does require certain amount of inspections. Most of them are loaded up in the front during construction and the early stages of the basin being utilized, just to make sure it's functioning as designed. And then there's space out thereafter. There's also some mowing that's involved around the berm. And occasionally there's some sediment that has to be removed from the sediment forebay, which is right at the pipe outlet. Also other maintenance items that might be involved. If there's any noticeable grass that hasn't grown or has been, for whatever reason, trampled upon, or the slope looks like it's sliding a little bit, maybe somebody walked up and down it too much. Those are maintenance items that get noted during the inspection report, and they are repaired.
Did the Beta people approve this plan?
Yes, they did.
And you're saying that the homeowners association is the one who's responsible, or did I mishear you?
No, that's correct.
Maintaining
Yeah,
it.
once the land's conveyed, it's the responsibility of the homeowners association.
And lastly, is there a possibility of any kind of, with our high water table, as you said, this is supposed to, you've explained it to me, but is there any chance of runoff from the, the new structure coming in?
No, there's no chance of runoff heading to any of the abutting properties. And the water table, I should note, we've dug additional holes. That's why there's 3 test pits to the right of the infiltration basin. I've actually put pipes in the ground in order to monitor the depth of water. I dug the holes personally, went down 8 or 9 feet. I did not find water, nor evidence thereof.
Where specifically were you digging? Behind my home?
Test pits 18, 16, and 17 to the
Is that
right.
by me? I'm at 19, Lancelot.
It's about 1 lot removed.
If I could, they're shown on the screen. The test pits are all these circles with.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's kind of small for me. I'm trying to hold. I'm like literally holding it up to my face, trying to. Oh, that's so much better. Thank you. It's much more.
It might be like 100 feet away from your yard or so.
Yeah. Oh, that makes much more sense. Thank you for doing that. Now I can see it. And there was a talk of the easement. I didn't know what you guys were talking about with the easement. Does that run behind our property?
No, that easement is at the cul-de-sac on the northernmost part of the property to go into the for a water line loop and for access to the open space.
Okay. Thank you for answering my questions.
Sure.
I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Appreciate your input.
Okay.
Okay,
You're
so
welcome.
now that's the only Q&A. I'm going to jump over to the chat. I know not everything here is a question. I'm just going to take it from the top down. Okay, that's another project. Jen, we just spoke to. All right, so 541 Foundry to host and panel. So, oh, never mind. That's not a question to us. It's not, okay. Forgive me, guys, doing this live as we go here. Okay. Fran Masters, I am the abutter at 36 South Street. I have the same concerns. I'm worried about flooding, mosquitoes, and wildlife. Can I be assured that my property will not be flooded, and what recourse do I have if it is? So why don't we, because, you know, I see a number of questions on there have, you know, which is common, have to do with you know, flooding and where the water's going. So really brief, why don't you guys give a quick description of what the goal of stormwater management is, and when we just heard about Beta. Beta is the peer review on here. So they make sure that the stormwater management meets all the state, local, you know, requirements. And so if you want to, in layman's terms, give a quick synopsis of what happens to all the water, what has to happen to it, and then let's look at 36 South Street. So that is the house that is just north of the southernmost.
Sheet 7.
Sorry.
Stephanie, please. No problem. Sheet 7, thank you.
Well, okay, but I don't know which page number sheet 7 is. So hold on a second.
Just keep going up towards the beginning.
Okay,
You
tell me
wanna
when I
go-
get there.
Yep, go in the other direction, head in the other direction to the top of the screen. There you go.
Okay, but
We're
What am
trying to show the neighbor's location, I believe. They said, was it 36, Mr. Strange, or the 36 South Street?
okay.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, 36. It's
Just-
stop
just
right there.
south of the
It's that lot on the left, that white, the lot that's all white.
Right
That's
here.
where the question. Yeah, that's where the question came from.
Okay, sorry.
I'll try to explain in layman's terms. We look at a piece of property and understand which way the water's flowing to begin with, prior to any design work on the project. And we have a design point. Stephanie, is it possible to go to maybe go up the sheet on the plan set, go up to an earlier sheet that shows the flow pathways for this particular location?
I might not have the sheet you're talking about. Oh,
Okay, that's okay.
we did not include the, oh gosh, the watershed plans.
Okay.
Fine.
Well, if we just could go back to that sheet, there you go, right there. Okay, so we establish the watersheds. We break down where the water's going across a parcel. Sometimes there's multiple areas, it heads off in different directions. And we call those design points. And one of them happens to be the low spot right down here where lot 1 in South Street and the neighbor meet, right in this area. That's called the design point. On the plan, it was called design point number 2. And we analyzed all the water that was heading that way for the 210, 25, and 100-year storm events. Those are the required events. Then we put together our design, and in our design, we have to take into consideration that we shed less water in that direction of that design point. For example, the worst storm event, the 100-year, is roughly 7 cubic feet per second that might be leaving this corner. And that's a tremendous amount of rain. That's over 7 inches in 24 hours. We have cut that down to roughly half leaving that corner. Maybe, I don't have the numbers exactly in front of me, but due to the development, the grading, we capture the water and send it towards the roadway. And in this roadway, we have a pipe system where we're also allowed to put some of it directly into the drainage pipes along South Street. But the overall amount of water for every storm event after development is less than the existing conditions. And that has been looked at very meticulously by the peer review engineer. It's their job to ensure that we meet what's called peak rate attenuation. And that's what we've done. So I can assure the neighbor that there's less water that's going to be going their way post-development than what is currently heading in their direction. I think I explained that. Was there anything more to the question?
No, I think you covered it. I think that was good.
Oh, Mr. Strange, I should also add the constructed wetland here. This also short circuits water flowing towards 36 South Street. This constructed wetlands has an outlet on the berm, a little bit lower, Stephanie, if you could. Right where the gravel ends, there's a weir, an outlet control structure right there. And this water is going to bleed and be drained towards the wetlands.
Great. Okay.
There is no water heading towards any of the butters on the south, except a trivial amount that's on the backside of the berm, which again is less than existing conditions.
Okay. Fantastic. All right, I want to kind of jump ahead. I'm sure we'll be getting more drainage
Right ahead.
questions on another night or tonight. So let's, so next up from Rob Wilson, does the board agree that there is an increased hazard exiting driveway at 16 South Street? And what are the options to address it? So Stephanie, if you could keep that same, yeah, you have that sheet. So since this is addressed to the board, I'll go first, being the chair. And I'd say a couple things. When we looked at this, I've spoken when I first had one of, I think, 4 conversations with Mr. Wilson 2 years ago, and talked about at the time, in fact, this is in the minutes from the preliminary hearing, talked about, he said many people turn from Pequonnet, turn onto the street and used to go into the estate, and maybe they thought it was 106. So there was talk of, oh, maybe we could put a, not an outlet sign or something. And, I understand this existing street is sort of an elbow. Pretty much the only people that go on there are for the 6 or 8 houses that are on the street. Forgive me, I don't have the exact number. So adding 19 additional homes, there's increased traffic. So I guess in theory, 19 homes or 19 additional homes offers more potential for accident. I wouldn't call it hazardous, but I don't live there. I wouldn't choose to assume. What I've said before, I said this at the last meeting, that I would recommend, as I recall, Mr. Wilson's issue was, okay, if he's backing out and there's cars coming, so why don't we put a stop sign at the exit to the subdivision, and then possibly if the traffic committee in town felt it was needed, to put one on South Street. And we can't put that on Mr. Humphreys because that's town land. But so we're never looking to cause dangerous situations. I don't personally think there is one, given traffic standards and design standards, and this all meets, and this wasn't red flagged by peer review or any of the other departments in town that reviewed it. And there are a number of this exact situation in town, but being sensitive to folks that live in the area and know this, they're going to know that section of the town, that street, better than anyone, as we all do, right, where we live. So I'd recommend we put stop signs there. And I saw another question from Mr. Wilson. It was from 759, and it said, can additional screening be added? So I'm assuming that's when Stephanie and Bill Humphreys were having a conversation about the buffer between the historical home that's being saved and his house. And I think that's something we could take a look at. The reason we had this conversation back publicly that want to keep the historic yard there and the feel of it. That's what, so, to say, think about it. If this road had to be raised, this is one of the reasons the team was working on it so long. If this road had to be raised 2 or 3 feet, then how do you save that historic home? Because it would be on it'd be sort of a New Orleans situation. It would be 3 or 4 feet below the road. So wanting, and I know the historical commission likes keeping the historic landscaping, but doesn't mean that our board or the planning staff, we can't look at it and see if we can come up with any ideas with Mr. Humphreys. But I wouldn't want to see a 25-foot buffer added there because I think it takes away from the existing historic landscape. But that's just me. So before I jump ahead, I don't mean to be selfish. Board members, do you want to respond to that the safety concern on the streets or either of those, since it was addressed to the board?
I like your idea. I mean, the stop signs that we should have that anyways, right? So I think that would really help to make this, make it safer for everyone on the street, even though, like you said, there will be more, more vehicles.
Okay, thank you, Peter. All right, let's see. Next one is, all right, we talked about a lot. No, all right, we talked about that. All right, Russ Greenfield, safety concerns with traffic flow from Paquontucket and Foundry onto South Street, the neighborhood children, bike riders, walkers, and roadway not built for extended traffic. What planning is being done to resolve this problem? Excuse me. Stephanie, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, the only thought I have right now, and I just jotted this down a minute ago when I looked at that. We are updating the Complete Streets prioritization plan. And probably not everyone is familiar with that. Back in 2017, the town adopted the Complete Streets policy, which meant that anytime the town was doing work on a roadway, they needed to consider adding more Complete Streets components, which would be looking at the feasibility of adding sidewalks, maybe bicycle lanes, etc. By adopting the policy, the town's eligible for certain Complete Streets funding for those type of projects. The prioritization plan is something that needed to be developed to identify areas that were priorities for those type of improvements and elements for more users of the streets. We are going to be doing an update to that. I'm trying to get the contract signed this week. And I think that's something, one part of the process is going out and holding some public forums again to get input from the public. So I would encourage people to talk about that. It wouldn't be part of this project and there'd be no guarantee that sidewalks would be added. But considering the work in the new development that's being proposed for this area, it might make sense at some point to add a sidewalk along South Street as a connector between Foundry Street and this new open space that's going to be available.
Yeah, and I would also point out, and thank you, Stephanie, that's excellent. I'd also point out, I know at one of the previous public meetings or hearings on this, the idea came up from one of the residents, what about, can we get a sidewalk to Foundry Street from South Street? And I think it was said the same thing, that, hey, that might be a great idea in the future. That's the town's property that has to be handled by the town, and sidewalks are, I mean, look at Lincoln Street's about to get one, and it's been that's a very long process because it's a very long street and took a while. But to Stephanie's point, they're now getting ready to work on the redesign of Route 106 and improvements. And I think at the time we said, yeah, it would be nice if we could in the future get a sidewalk there. But I would say South Street, I know it's going to see more traffic than it has, but it is sized in terms of its paving width and all, it is sized that way. And I live about a mile up the road on Paquontucket, and we get a lot more traffic than South Street. We had a rollover last night when someone hit a pole, and the 61st accident in front of my house since I've lived there. Sometimes geography is just geography, but we try to create the safest road setups that we can. And I think the town does a great job with that. So anyways, and Dale, I do see you. I'm just going, that's why I announced before, I'm going through all the chat first, and then, we won't forget you, Dale. You're a regular. So we'll get to you in a second. Okay, Rhino, go, Amos?
Yes, what are the figures for traffic that says that this is added?
I have no, I'm sorry, you were all garbled. I couldn't hear a word you said. Could you maybe adjust your microphone?
No, I can adjust, but the question is, what are the figures that says that the traffic, the additional traffic or the total traffic with this development make that road adequate?
Well, I don't have those at the tips of my fingers, but I know given we're adding 19 houses. Now, I know that's a lot to the neighborhood, perception wise when it's been, woods. But for the size of this road, the existing road, that's nowhere near pushing its max capacity. And we can get something for you on that, or the developer can for the next meeting, but we don't have that at our fingertips now. That's just, I think that's sort of a given from those of us who deal with this experience wise, but we can answer that for you. I mean, Stephanie, I'm assuming you don't have that at fingertips, right? So we can.
Mr. Chairman, it's not done by how many houses are in a subdivision. You could have 10,000 houses in there. It's done by sight line and speed limit of the road.
No, but Bill, I understand what you're saying, but we're talking about something different. He was just talking about the size of the road to fit the capacity.
Oh, I understand. But when you do.
Okay, Bill, I'm going to cut you off just because we're already over 2 hours. I got to get this going. I understand what you're saying, but we got a long way to go here. So bear with me here. Okay, let's see. I answered Rob Wilson's, correct. Dale, yeah. This is questioning. So I saw from Jen, who already spoken, this is a question regarding safety and traffic flow. I just wanted to make sure the property at the end of Guinevere is not zoned to allow cut through to this development. I can't tell you offhand how Guinevere is zoned, but at the end of this development is open space that will be in perpetuity. So this road will not be extended, cannot be. South Street is a shortcut to Paquonicket Ave, and speed is a factor every day. Speed's a factor on all the roads in Easton, absolutely. So that's why we like to get the feedback from the folks that live on South Street, and we will, if this project approves, we've talked about stop signs, and we'll whatever we need to do to make sure the traffic works safely, we will. Regarding traffic flow on South Street, would speed humps, not bumps, be an option? I don't think so because of paving, but that's probably a question for the DPW, because again, South Street's out of the is not the responsibility of this development team. They don't own it. But if once this subdivision is built, because and feel free to jump in, engineers or Stephanie, but again, for the numbers we're looking at, traffic flow is based on number of houses, number of cars, trips. And for the trips being added, I don't see a layout that is hazardous, and I don't see a capacity that is hazardous. Doesn't mean there won't be people driving unsafely and too fast and foolishly, but that happens on every road in Easton. That happens on every road in every town from time to time. The key is to create situations that don't make that worse, and that's what we always work towards. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over. So for now on, just so everybody knows, I'm going to be done with the chat. I got through that long list, try to manage this as best we can. We don't really want any repeat questions as we've been through this a lot. So if you could call up Dale, identify yourself for the record, and as quickly as you could, tell us what you have.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Of course.
Dale Carrister, 21 South Street. Yeah, I am very appreciative to the efforts of the board. I've been participating in these types of matters now for almost 3 years, and I see the level of scrutiny that's applied to the various projects, and thankful for the efforts of our citizens volunteers to devote their time to doing so. I'm particularly thankful for the efforts of the peer review engineer with respect to the drainage issues. I was one of those folks who raised some concerns at the October 18th meeting, and was pleased to see that 48 days later, Beta issued its first report, and ultimately, I think if I understand correctly, had rejected about 4 or 5 iterations of the drainage plans. And I was pleased to see and take a lot of comfort in the fact that it's not just the technical aspects about compliance with what's required for a stormwater plan, but the actual plan itself was substantially revised with these pocket wetlands and including the addition of the second one. So that does give us a lot of comfort. You know, we're hopeful, and it sounds, I'm actually quite pleased with what I've been hearing from the board in connection with the other 3 sets of, well, certain of the other issues that we've raised to date. On the public safety and traffic issue, I would disagree respectfully, Greg, with something you just said about the layout not being unusually hazardous. And keeping in mind what Stephanie already has here. Stephanie, if you wouldn't mind, if you could just scroll up so we see the intersection on that plan. You're on page 14 of 38. And if you could just roll that down. What is extraordinarily unique about this is that the traffic that are going to be traveling from Peconicut on South Street, traveling in easterly direction towards the new development, that road will look like it's an extension of South Street. And so I am very, very much in favor of the installation of stop signs, because what's going to happen otherwise is folks who are traveling from Peconicut coming into the development, whether it's the new residents there or whether it's delivery trucks, it looks like you're going to be traveling straight. However, the folks who are traveling on South Street in a northerly direction from 106, they curve around the corner. And so the folks traveling east on South Street are going to be crossing the lane of traffic on the other side with perhaps without realizing it. So what I would ask the board to do, and I am particularly pleased that there's been an acknowledgement of the need for additional stop signs. And I understand that, that's not something that Mr. Humphreys has control over, but I would hope that from the applicant, sort of as the advocate on behalf of all of the new folks who will be living there, and from the existing residents and from the board, we're all on board. This makes a lot of sense. And what I'm asking the board to do is if they can make perhaps a recommendation or request to the Traffic Safety Committee, because I did reach out to them and it was clear that they had not yet, well, at least when I spoke to Mr. Field or emailed with him, that there had been no formal reach out. And I think it would make a big difference if the Planning and Zoning Board, as supported by the neighbors and hopefully supported by the applicant, would reach out to suggest the possibility of these stop signs coming. And I would add also that I live right in the corner. You can see where my house is. I have an office right at the corner. I look out in both directions on this. And with COVID, I've been working primarily from home. This street is used extensively as a cut through during rush hours. So it's not just the local folks here. Some folks come up to that intersection, and as you're traveling north on South Street, there's a little bit of confusion because you look like you're driving into the driveway to the Wilson's house, and there's a driveway to the right, which will now be a road. Other folks coming in both directions come flying by, and there are at least 5 families on this street who use this street, who have small children and strollers and toddlers and so forth. So I think the stop sign thing would be huge to help address the problems. I would also add that Mr. Lincoln, who's developing the sawmill property, I believe was required to do a traffic study in connection with that, because I spoke to one of the Conoco representatives at one point, and his project is just a little over twice the size of this. And in my December letter, it suggested the possibility of requiring some sort of a traffic study. But in any event,
Gail, if I could just interject, the reason we require a traffic study, because part of the mitigation to the town for that project was adding turning lanes and a set of lights. So
right, but they were over on South Street doing surveying over here in connection with, which is how I was aware of it. So I haven't seen the plan. I don't know what it entails. But my point is, there's a new traffic light coming in at 106 and Peconicut. That, no question, is going to increase the cut-through traffic on this street. There's going to be people who are not going to want, if they're coming south on Peconicut, we're going to take a left on South Street so they can avoid that traffic light. They can take a left on 106, or they can go straight across down to Highland. Similarly, folks who are coming on Peconicut, coming up the other direction on 106, will be inclined, if they want to go up towards Peconicut in the north, will take a right on South Street to cut through. We saw this when they were doing the construction for the sewer. And I think there's going to be a substantial amount of additional traffic. And again, it heightens the need for some stop signs here. But so
yeah, and I would just add in, because I don't know, I respectfully not sure I agree with you. Having what they don't have now is the organization of traffic lights and the sort of free flow through of passing lanes. So, but you know, this is a very active town, as you know. We listen well, and you know, when all is built, if this project's approved and gets built, and when the streetlights are in, if that becomes an issue, then certainly, you know, signs, you know, residents only. I mean, there's ways to curtail that, but I'm not so sure. I think a well-designed light is going to alleviate a lot of the cut through.
I certainly hope you're correct, and no doubt about it. But I can tell you from watching here on a daily basis for hours as I'm doing my legal work, that there are a lot of folks using it as cut through. I recognize the cars and so forth. I know who lives here and so forth. And when you add a traffic light in, folks' natural tendency is to try to avoid that traffic light. If you're coming towards Peconicut, you hit a traffic light, you're going to get stopped, or you can take a left on South Street before you get to it, and you can continue on 106 to the east, or you can go down to Highland and all through the Bay Road.
Mr. Chair, could I comment on that?
Yes, of course. Sorry, I couldn't get that.
I'm sorry, but the purpose of the traffic light is to make traffic move more smoothly on Peconicut Avenue. And I think a lot of people find going to a traffic light, knowing that at some point you're going to get that left turn, it actually increases use of a lighted intersection than trying to take that shortcut where it's still unpredictable as to when you're going to get through for that get a break for your left-hand turn.
Yeah, and that may very well be the case, and I hope you're correct. But if you're traveling on Route 106 and you want to go up on Peconicut, you're going to take a right on South Street and avoid having a traffic light with stopped traffic. And the principal benefit of that.
That's not this project. We just talked about it for like 5 minutes now.
Right. So, all right, let me move on, but it just reinforces the need for the stop signs. And if I can summarize on the issue about public access, if I heard correctly, the board seems to be in favor of at the northern end by the cul-de-sac, if I understood correctly, to move the lot line over by, say, 10 feet so that there's not an issue of where people feel as if they're walking across somebody's lawn. And I understand from Mr. Humphrey that he's talking about also this would be maintained sort of as a path and perhaps with a tree line, or as Stephanie had suggested, some type of split rail fencing there would certainly be beneficial. What was also unclear to me on this is I'd like to make sure that the public access easement for the other access for the property, that it confirmed that in the language itself that it's actually access for the public as well. I think that's sort of an important point, as Greg had pointed out.
We've said that every time that is going to be there, just like every other open space that we do. That will totally be public access.
Right. Okay. The third issue, and I'll just conclude there, is that I had made reference in two of my earlier letters about the request for the 2 additional units. I don't frankly care whether it's 18 or 20. Doesn't make a difference to me. It's going to have a huge impact on this neighborhood regardless. And I would suggest that I don't think there are any other projects in town where you have as many homes letting out into what's sort of a quietest street of this, but it is what it is. But I do recommend that the town council be consulted to see whether the board has the authority to grant the 2 additional units. As I read the zoning bylaws, given that that donation was made for a prior project as expressly as a condition of that the board may not have that authority. And then there's a separate issue of, what percentage of that property was wetlands. But, at the end of the day, I would recommend that the board, refer that to town council for review. So in any event, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Dale. And I just would add to that, I disagree unless some facts have come to light but I confirmed with town council and with the town planner at the time and with the land use agent, which is a conservation agent thing, that donation was not tied to any prior project. Anyways, all right. I think this is a good place to stop. We've given it over 2 hours. We've got some great feedback. And, you know, like I said at that first public hearing, you know, I said it would be 1 to 3 more meetings. That was back at the time. And yeah, we've got a few more meetings here, a couple more, one, you know, so there's some stuff that came up. We'll get on the plans, some questions. We'll talk to, you know, I'll kind of debrief with Stephanie, and we'll see about like the South Street and the traffic committee for this, you know, for the additional signs, and we'll just touch base, make sure that we're all on the same page with the access, how we're getting there, and the easement and all that. Board members or Stephanie, any last thoughts? Anything we haven't touched on? And so, Bill, to you and your team, do you want to go out? We'll continue to the next meeting, which is 2 weeks out. Is that the next meeting?
It is, hold on,
Here's my agenda.
I think it's July 11th.
Correct. July 11th.
July 11th, Greg.
That's
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
what we'd like to do, please.
2 weeks out. All right. So, all right. Can I get a motion to continue to our next meeting on the 11th? Sooner than later.
Motion to continue until July 11th.
As much as I like spending time with all you folks. Is there a second?
Kevin, second.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, Strange eye.
El Sarah guy.
Kevin, aye.
Great, thank you. All right, so thank you to your team and all the abutters and everybody that came on, please. Thank you very much. We really, we do appreciate your feedback. You help make the projects better. And, you know, so thank you. And I'm sure we'll be talking to y'all in a couple of weeks.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
All
Chairman.
right,
Good night,
so,
everyone. Good night.
so I'm trying to, so next up, I'm trying to see that gentleman, let's
Yeah.
see. So, yeah.
Well, looks like they're back.
Are they back?
I
They had to go to Concom.
I'm going to make them up. I'm going to promote Rob Pellegrini to panelist, and he can let us know who else we should. Rob, are you there? Maybe he just muted himself.
Yes. Hi.
Okay.
There he is.
Sorry. We have John O'Leary.
Yeah.
I'll pause in between.
Yep. Okay.
We have Austin Chartier,
Okay.
Matt Keeley, and Zachary Sylvia.
All right.
So I'm sure, well, I'm gonna wait until prompted, but
Yeah, just quickly, I'm gonna say, I appreciate everybody's patience. Always tough to follow a long public hearing, but hopefully you had a successful Concom. And if, yeah, just the name and address for the record, and you guys can have at it.
sure. This is Rob Pellegrini from PK Boston Law, Bridgewater. I have John O'Leary, the project proponent from Rhino Capital Advisors. We also have Austin Chartier, civil engineer with McKenzie Engineering Group, Matt Keeley, traffic engineer with VHB, and Zachary Sylvia, he's an architect with DJSA Architects. Real quick, before John jumps on and put some slides on the screen for you, just a quick reminder, the address is 530 and 550 Turnpike Street. We're proposing an industrial warehouse. It's an allowed by right use. We're here for site plan endorsement. We started by meeting with the planner et al. Informally on March 3rd, then Chairman Strange on March 22, design review on April 6th, and we were before this board on June 6th. There was a staff report on June 3rd, which we replied to with quite a bit of info on June 20th. So I'm sure that everyone we have here tonight will be able to explain a lot more than that to you. So I'll just quickly pass it on to John O'Leary. I know you just had a lengthy meeting, so I'll quiet down.
Much appreciated.
Thank you, Rob. All thanks for taking the time this evening. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with everyone so we can kick off these slides. And to Rob's point, we will attempt to keep this as efficient as possible, coming off a rather lengthy one. So can everyone see that first intro slide? Just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Yep. Okay.
Yep, we have it.
So introductions, Rob already went through. Agenda again. Reintroducing this project, we're just going to kind of keep everything high level and just want to get everybody up to speed as to the project. So site overview here. The project we're looking at here is located at 530 and 550 Turnpike Street, just a half-mile south of the intersection of Route 106 and 138, and about a mile and a half to the Route 24 interchange. Between the two parcels of land, it's about 79 total acres, 49 and a half of which is represented as wetland area, which is roughly 62% of the total acreage. 71, or just shy of 72 acres is a rare species habitat area. That area you can see is highlighted, hatched in green, and the property boundary is hatched in blue. Our proposed project will take place entirely outside of that natural heritage boundary. So our project limits of our work are roughly just less than 10% total acreage of the property. So existing conditions, property is currently occupied by a driving range, a pro shop and teaching facility, a maintenance shed, a snack shack, an existing batting cage, an existing mini golf course. There are also 181 existing parking spaces that support this use, and roughly 4.5 acres of total impervious area. We are proposing here a 101,200 square foot warehouse building. Broken down, it'll be roughly 8,000 square feet of office space and 93,200 square feet of warehousing. We're proposing 109 parking spaces, 2 of which will be electric vehicle charging stations, 6 of which will be handicap parking spaces. We're proposing seven loading docks located at the rear of the property, off of Turnpike Street, or away from Turnpike Street, I should say, and 7 proposed trailer storage spaces. All in, it's roughly 4.88 acres of impervious coverage, which represents just shy of 0.5% increase in total impervious coverage. I will now turn it over to Matt Keeley from VHB, who is our traffic engineer, to discuss some of the revisions that we made to our traffic impact assessment as a result of comments received at our last planning board hearing.
Thank you, John. Just to quickly recap a couple of points that I made at the last hearing and to provide an update on some of the things that we've recently submitted. I just wanted to remind people that, we took a look at the trip generation. On its own, it's not a large generator of traffic. And we also conducted traffic counts at the site when the driving range was open. And we are expecting, very minor increase in the morning of about 35 vehicles. And we're actually expecting a decrease in vehicle trips during the weekday evening peak hour. So we're not expecting this to be a big traffic generator, but we did want to follow up with some mitigation measures that Rhino wanted to implement as part of the project. The first being a transportation demand management program. I don't have to read through all of these bullets, but just to get to the point of what the TDM program is geared towards doing. It's trying to reduce the number of vehicle trips that happen to and from the site on a daily basis. You can achieve those things by ride matching, carpooling, providing incentives to carpool and van pool, providing information for alternate modes of transportation and things like that. And John already mentioned the fuel efficient vehicle spaces that are putting on the site. So those types of things are going to be implemented on this site in an effort to try and minimize the amount of traffic traveling to and from. Next slide, please. And then for a traffic monitoring program, this is something that would typically be required by MassDOT for larger projects. Most likely would not be required for something of this size, but Rhino wanted to offer this anyway. What a traffic monitoring program is going to do is basically count the vehicle trips traveling to and from the site on a daily basis, as well as a peak hour basis after it's occupied, basically as a check of our trip generation projections, and report that information back to the town and to MassDOT. So this is sort of just a safety measure that keeps our estimates in check, and provides that information to the town. Annually for 5 years is typically the time frame that we look at. And next slide. As I mentioned last time, with a project that's not really a big traffic generator, we try to turn our focus to safety. And we had provided a crash history, and there's not a lengthy crash history along the site frontage here. We wanted to measure the sight lines as well at each of the site driveways. The chart you see here was also provided in our traffic study. And it shows that for intersection sight distance and stopping sight distance at both driveways, we far exceed the requirements. One of the follow-ups from last meeting was someone who wanted to see how that plots out on the plan. And in the next slide, I think Austin can take that one over.
Thanks, Matt. Austin Chartier with McKenzie Engineering Group for the record. Yep, so I can just quickly add on to what Matt said here. Just the reason for that, the excess in sight distance is just simply that the road's so straight out here, and you have plenty of sight lines from both entrances to the site. Both of these entrances locations, they exist today. And as Matt was saying, that it's not a high crash location. And we may even see a decrease in some of the trips in the afternoon peak hours. So yeah, we did look into, just diving into a little bit of the safety that were proposed on the site. And actually, if we go to the next slide, John. Yeah, so for a warehouse of this size and use, typically we're seeing the WB50 trucks. We had modeled the WB67 on the last slide, which may have been a little bit of a over exaggeration of what it might look like out here. So we just wanted to show this on realistically the truck sizes that'll be using this. And it's you can see that the turning movements are, easily accomplished out here. We're providing a 35-foot radius, which is roughly similar to what's out there today. But MassDOT, typically they don't want to see anything over 40 feet, but we'll go through that process with them as well for the access permit. Next slide, please. So I guess that's it for the turning movements. And Zach Sylvia can speak a little bit about the building itself.
Good evening, board members. This is Zach Sylvia, architect at DJSA Architecture. Just to give you an overview of the building, looking at the perspective, this is the entrance corner to the office component of the project. So you can see we have glazing along the lower level office front, as well as clear story windows above. This is a concrete tilt wall construction. The highest panel is 40 feet above finished grade, finished slab. And some of the highlights in the building, we have a tie-back canopy over the entrance. We have a 3-color paint scheme on the project, along with some reveals and relief panels to add some shadow lines in the building. So an example of that is the horizontal band at the corner. And just an overview of the plan. It's a 90-10 split on warehouse and office. So top right is the main entrance to the building. We have the office component, large open warehouse. Then on the top left of the screen, we have the utility entrance, sprinkler and electric room. And plan south, we have the loading dock, access on the back side of the site.
Thanks, Zach. So switching gears a little bit here, going back to some of the comments received both in the previous hearing as well as staff report comments. Just going to quickly fly over these a little bit. So our landscape architect, Bill Madden, who was on the call last week, unfortunately couldn't make it this week, but he did make some revisions to his plan. So the original planting plan that you see on the top here with the red, the highlighted red denotes cultivars and non-native plants. Bill and his team went in and revised that planting plan to incorporate entirely a fully native palette. He increased the overall diversity as a result of those changes, but was able to maintain the overall design intent, which I know was something that was focused on in initial meetings. We wanted to attempt to screen the building from Turnpike Street. That was Bill and his team's overall goal. And despite the switching from cultivars and non-native plants to a more native species, we still maintain that same intent of screening the building from Turnpike Street. Again, still incorporating low maintenance, salt tolerant, natural pollinators with some good seasonal color as well. Another comment that came up was site lighting. This was in response to, I believe, a staff report comment regarding dark sky lighting. The two lights that we have spec'd on this property, which we did submit, and I apologize, it came out sort of grainy when I grabbed these from the spec sheet, but they both are International Dark Sky Association approved fixtures, and that's what we intend to use here. So we just kind of wanted to highlight here, kind of in closing, some of the overall environmental impacts as a result of this project. It's something we're really proud of as it relates to the overall intent and goal for this proposed building. As it exists today, there's nearly 25,000 acres of impervious area within the 100-foot buffer zone, and roughly 18,000 square feet of impervious area within the 50-foot buffer zone. Our proposed project is intended to remove entirely all impervious area within the 50-foot buffer zone and reduce that 24,000 down to 13,500 square feet within the 100-foot buffer zone. So we feel that what we're proposing is an overall reduction to environmental impacts as it relates to the work area, and then in addition to that, this is the part that we're most proud of, and we've worked hard to develop this plan both with natural heritage as well as with our wetland scientist Scott Morrison from Ecotech. The area you see highlighted here and outlined in black is the driving range area. It's roughly 8 acres of mowed and maintained lawn area with netting that runs up the northern and southern, which is planned right and left to keep balls from traveling into the wetland areas. Our plan is to remove those nettings to replant this area with natural native species, which is the list you see provided here on this sheet. In addition to that, we've proposed a 2-year invasive species mitigation program and are attempting to renaturalize this area to the best of our ability. And again, it's something that we're quite proud of and allows for a more native habitat for some of these rare species. Again, this area that you see here is entirely within the boundary of the natural heritage rare species. So we actually did receive a no-take letter from Natural Heritage, and we shared that letter with the Conservation Commission, and actually just got off a hearing with them. Really, the only outstanding item that as it relates to our Conservation Commission work is our stormwater peer review, which I understand is also something that the Planning Board would like to see. So Austin has responded to staff report comments, but has held off fully submitting our revised site plan until we receive those stormwater peer review comments. We're able to address those, incorporate those into our plan, and then at that point, we'll resubmit a full, complete plan set reflecting those changes. We felt it redundant to go forth with another plan set if we could just more paperwork. So we wanted to wait until we got those comments received But just wanted to highlight that so that everyone's kind of up to speed. And with that, that sort of wraps up what we had to talk about, and we're more than happy to answer any questions that might have come up this evening.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you. Fantastic presentation. Board members, any questions or comments? No? Is that a long night or an efficient presentation? I think it's the latter. But Stephanie, do you have anything to comment on?
Nope, I think they've covered everything. We're having a little difficulty getting quotes, and finally found someone who would respond to do the stormwater review. So we expect that to be on an expedited track right now.
Okay, so sounds like we're in good shape. We just, I guess you guys need to get the peer review comments back, tweak it, and so should we continue this to like 2 meetings out, or do you think we're going to see it within? I mean, if peer review hasn't started, want to go 2 meetings out just so we don't have to.
We with the Concom, they put us out to
25th it was.
Yeah, July 25th. I think that's as stressful as it was bouncing in between Zoom hearings. I think that's probably the best.
We'll put you before South Street next time. You guys are quick and efficient, and nobody really comments on warehouses. So it's like, what are you gonna do with all the golf balls you find?
You want them?
Yeah.
No, my game is gone. So you want to go to the 25th? Do we have a meeting the 25th?
We do. We do, and it is the same. Yes, until August, we're still running with the Conservation Commission.
Who would care to make that motion?
Make a motion to continue to the July 25th meeting. And I also just want to comment that I appreciate the cohesiveness of the presentation.
Thank you.
Second, Stetson.
Thank you.
Is there any appreciation with that second?
There's also appreciation. I especially appreciated the light sign, the explanation on traffic, and also the sight lines. That was very helpful, and that was very responsive to a lot of the inquiries we made last meeting. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have a motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Strange eye.
Strange eye.
Stetson eye.
Sarah guy.
All right. Unanimous. Thank you, guys. Gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye. All right. 25 Robert Drive, site plan review.
Okay, let's see. Sorry. Let's see. I see your hand raised.
There we go. Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Bo Akers, and I am counsel for the owner and applicant. And I believe I have Mr. Dylan Lincoln on behalf of Citizens Bank. He's a project manager. And I also have Mike Pereira on behalf of William Stark Architects, Inc., the applicant.
Well, thank you. Welcome. The floor is yours.
All right. All right. So this project is located on a portion of 25 Robert Drive. I believe it's approximately 2,200 square feet in the parking lot. I believe it's the southern portion of the parking lot. It's located in a business zoning district. The proposed project is a self-serving ATM for Citizens Bank. The owner of the property is Easton Highlands LLC, and the applicant is William Stark Architects, Inc. The proposed use which I believe is something that there has been quite a bit of back and forth with the town over prior to this hearing, is that drive-through ATMs, and I think this issue or concern now has been addressed in any miscommunications regarding that as well, that it requires a special permit in the town of Easton pursuant to the Appendix A1 under E5, because it's a self-serving drive-through. So I wasn't sure if that was going to be an issue tonight. I know that my client is prepared to move forward. The applicant is prepared to move forward in this if the town's willing to hear it. And I was curious if the town had any comments regarding that particular matter before we get into this.
Stephanie, your thoughts, since you've been involved?
Oh, Stephanie, you're on mute.
Oh, you're muted. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, this project came to our attention probably 2 years ago. It's been going back and forth. Under the bylaw, and I talked with the zoning enforcement officer, this is a drive-through or a drive-up. It does require a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. That was communicated, but I think it got lost in the communication process over time. So they did file for site plan review, but they have not yet filed for their special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So I didn't realize that when we put this on the agenda and didn't have a chance, Greg, to discuss with you. My recommendation at this point would be the board could hear the project and presentation and then either vote contingent on an affirmative vote from the Board of Appeals, or just continue until such time as they get there.
Well, this is a small project, and I suspect they can give us a really succinct, organized project. And board members, I'm fine listening, and we can give some comments. And I mean, everybody's here. And
we end up having to try to make a recommendation on the on the special permit for the Board of Appeals. So if we talk about it now, then if we have any ideas,
we'll be really polished when we have to give our comments. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, right. We just kind of make some comments now, and I'll get the ball rolling.
Sure.
Yeah, I would say on behalf of my client, having this contingent upon the approval by the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit, which we would get on to right away within the next 2 weeks, get that application in and going. So without further ado, thank you again for hearing this project.
Sure.
I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Pereira to discuss the ATM and the project itself.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the consideration and the opportunity to present this project in front of everyone. With that being said, I'm going to share my screen now. And please let me know if you can see the drawings in front of you.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you very much. As Christian had mentioned, we're proposing a drive-up ATM located on 25 Robert Drive. That's parallel to Foundry Street and 106. The proposed area, pardon the zoom, is within this 12.76 acre lot. It's away from the shopping center and adjacent to the existing building. If the zoom works, apologies, that sits here now. The project itself is approximately 2,200 square feet, and it will eliminate 9 parking spaces in the overflow parking area in here. The project itself is entailed with a concrete reinforced pad with power that's run up to the ATM, and then a freestanding canopy structure above the ATM to provide somewhat of a a weather protection for patrons that drive up to the ATM in there. There's a concrete precast curb that allows for the entrance and egress of the ATM. We're proposing mulched as far as the landscape, new line striping to indicate ingress and egress out of the ATM, and then a painted line striping island in here. In addition to other safety requirements, we are also adding what's called a headache bar or a clearance bar to notify patrons entering the ATM the clearance options prior to coming up to the canopy. So in general, that's the project in its hindsight. It's just an ATM on its own pad with a canopy in an overflow lot doesn't really get used.
Sure, thanks. So question I have is, because right, this gets put in the overflow area, which I get is down there, but we already see the back of the building, dumpsters, and then we see they put in those they put in clothing donation boxes, which we all know what those end up looking like.
Right.
What I don't, so what, and it looks like the structure's tall enough here, so we're gonna see the back of this from the street. You're gonna add any landscaping there, like a little bit of a buffer? So we just don't have to keep seeing the back of everything? Or,
sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally understand that. That agreement's usually between the bank and the landlord of how they work out the actual landscape that's along here on Fountain. Relative to our project and our project site, we do have the canopy. It's just the canopy. There's no overgrown shrubbery or landscape that we're proposing. It's just going to be a mulch bed that's simple landscaping and low maintenance on that particular site.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering, I don't know what the board members think, but we keep seeing the back of everything there, and I'm like, and I don't think you're looking for drive-up traffic from there, so couldn't we just add a few trees to block it, so we don't have to see the back of everything?
Sure, we can.
So, you know what I mean, just so something was put, because they already put some signs in they didn't come to us for. Stuff just starts getting added, and I understand what it looks like. They want to address it from their retail side, but I'd like to see it. It doesn't have to address the street, but I'd rather not just see the back of it. Or it'd be nice to just erase it with a tree. You know what I'm saying?
What's the size of the building, like the structure?
The structure. I will like to add too that the structure is also going for a separate special use permit for signage as well. So that's being done by another vendor. But the height of the structure is approximately 11'2". At the high part where you're under the ATM, and at the low side, it's approximately like 10'4". It's 2 pylons that are on the side with an awning that covers the car and the patron when they're up at the ATM.
So are these internally illuminated? Is that what the special permit's going to be for the signage?
That's correct.
So that'll be coming here too. So the citizens on the side's going to light up, and the clearance height's not going to light up, is it?
Not the clearance height. The citizens on the sides of the pylons, and then under the canopy itself, there's recessed LED lights.
Right.
And those lights as well. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just asking, is there a sign on the side facing the road?
No, there isn't. So it's open. It's literally just
all
the
the
2
more
pylon
reason.
sides
I'd love
on
to
the
see
side.
it just framed behind with some evergreens. That way, we don't have to see it from the road.
Oh, right, yeah. 'Cause I see. So it's open, and it's just like the little ATM kiosk type.
Yeah,
That's
it's a little
correct.
roof.
Yep.
Okay.
I would like to point to, the sign vendor did mention that, the light would not disperse around the site. It's primarily just at the ATM. So there's not any, disruption to, light pollution or any cutoff to the site boundary.
Well, sure. I mean, I'm not going to argue with Greg, thinking that a little screening, I suppose, would be helpful.
Sure.
What is the material on the back face that will be facing the road?
At the pylons or behind the ATM itself?
Behind the ATM itself.
There's nothing. It's just the ATM itself.
Okay, so okay.
It looks
So
like
just a freestanding,
Yeah, I'm sorry. This white space, this is all open aired.
Okay.
And it's
got it.
just the citizens ATM and then just the pylons
Yeah.
that provide a shelter, if you would, for patrons at the ATM itself.
Well, actually, one of the sheets actually shows what it looks like. It's on page 10 of the one I'm looking at.
Right.
And just to clarify, this is going to be adjacent to the freestanding structure. I don't know what's there.
This is all
right
by
now. I think it
itself.
might be an insurance.
Mhm.
Right,
Yeah,
but it's going to be
next to that
adjacent to it.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
50,
Okay.
60 feet
And
away. Probably.
is there any pedestrian access to this?
The primary access is by vehicle, but again, someone that walked up to the ATM could actually walk up and use it, but the primary function would be from a vehicle. Also like to mention that there is no change or proposed change to any stormwater management for this as well.
Were there any other site considerations for placement, or was this the only location that was considered for this in this shopping center?
There was one that we submitted previous to this location. Sorry, did this overall plan show up on everyone's screen?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. It was actually located here previously, but with the concern with the amount of traffic through this main corridor in here and patrons exiting the ATM, the concern was that this would kind of back up traffic or cause potential issues with patrons entering and exit the plaza and patrons entering and exit the ATM. So it was asked if we could relocate the ATM to a different portion of the site that didn't interrupt or interfere with the main traffic entering and exiting the plaza.
Yeah, it is kind of, it's just the way that corner kind of spaces the road is just kind of ended up. It's obviously not the ATM's fault, but it's just like that end, it's just an odd part of that location.
Is there any other comments from the board? I definitely will revisit the tree or some type of landscape issue with both citizens and the landlord.
Yeah, I'd like to not see this from the street because it's just the back of everything, and it's just that that site is just I'm beating a dead horse, but just the back of the back of the building next door, the insurance building. We see the back, we see the dumpster, we see the mechanicals, we see those lovely donation boxes, and it's let's try to dress it up a little bit and stop giving all the ugly stuff to the people on the roads in Easton, right? So if we could just come back with a plan that has it with those added in, I mean, there's some existing conifers there anyway. It seems like you just have to add 3 or 4 in between some right where this is, block it out nicely and be all
even like a tree at either end of those little island bump outs or something, right?
Sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd like to see the whole ATM covered because, like I say, you just see the back of the ATM, so you got to see a ventilation box,
All right. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to hear from the product manager for citizens. I think Mr. Pereira covered it pretty well, and hearing the board's concerns of the back of it from the roadway. I think that'd be something that we should check with the owner of the properties. Would the board perhaps want to continue this out while we work on this as well as work on the special permit?
Yeah, what I was going to say, obviously it's going to have to come back to us with a special permit. So if we hit it 100%, we could do a contingency, but why leave it hanging out there? Board, correct me if I'm wrong. I think other than the concern I brought up, we're all okay with everything, right? So if you can just get some trees thrown on there, and then when you come back to the special permit, we'll get you in and out.
All right.
Terrific.
All right.
Thank you very much.
so-
Greatly appreciate it.
Yep, thanks for waiting.
Do we want to continue this? Do we want to continue this out, or we're going to get rid of site plan review and it's going to go? We still have to do site plan review with a special permit, or do we just do a special? No, we just do a special permit, right?
What if, perhaps what if we have it contingent upon the special permit as well as some sort of arborvitae behind the ATM?
What am I going to say about arborvitae?
No.
Okay.
Deer, it's all deer around here. An arborvitae today is a Charlie Brown Christmas tree tomorrow. So,
Okay, gotcha.
but you'll come up with something. So you definitely
Okay.
want deer resistance. This is Easton. We have a lot of deer.
Oh.
So
All right.
yeah, we just, well, I mean, I think they're gonna have to scrap the site plan review and just come back for the special permit when they file.
Oh, the special permits with the Board of Appeals. They
Oh,
still
you're
need
right.
site
You're
plan
right.
review. So it's whether you want to continue until they get through
Yeah.
site
Yeah,
plan.
let's just, why don't we continue this
I
out a
mean,
couple of
special
meetings and
permit.
then see,
Yeah.
because that's, you're right. Sorry, it's been a long night.
I mean, we can draft a decision in anticipation and
Oh yeah, we can go quick with this, and even if you get the plan into Stephanie ahead of time, we can take a look at it. If we have to tweak anything, that way,
we can
obviously
get
it's a
you
simple
feedback
plan,
on.
and that way if we have to tweak anything, we can let you know.
Okay.
So, want to continue out 2 meetings and then see what happens, Stephanie? Is that what we should do?
Yeah, yeah, speaking,
All right.
yeah, because they won't, if they haven't submitted their application.
Right, that's going to take at least 30 days, right?
Right.
So 2 meetings out. What's our
That would
date?
be the 25th.
And then we can
July
just
25th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, Greg, that could be pretty fast if we get the.
Motion to continue to July 25th.
Second, Stetson.
Any further discussion? I'll give that to Balsaric. He beat it just in the nick of time. Sorry, Bob. All those in favor, strange eye.
Shane, aye.
Stetson, aye.
Balsaric, aye.
I must cough twice. I think that's affirmative. All right. The motion passes. It's either 3-1 or 4-0. I'll let Suzanne decide. 3-0. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a nice night.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a good night.
Oh, okay. So we have board reorganization, representative appointments to CPA and capital planning, and economic development. Actually, although they structure that differently, and meeting minutes. Meeting minutes.
I looked at them and they looked okay to me.
Motion to approve, Stetson.
Second, to Shane.
All those in favor, strange eye.
To Shane, aye.
Stetson, aye.
Balsaric, aye.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you all. Board reorganization. So am I getting axed, or I get to stay as chair? One more
I say
year
stay.
before I quit? And would you like to continue to be the, well, it's not vice chair. They call it something else.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll pass it on too if anyone else wants to do it. Just speak now. I don't, I mean, like when the Zoom stops working, I said Monday.
Motion
night
to
or
approve
weekend.
Peter as
When Zoom
chair.
stops working and the applicant just keeps on
I mean,
talking
as
and talking
clerk.
and talking. I don't need to hold that.
I heard you handled that really well.
Share that.
You did.
Well, that was, oh my God. I don't know if the next one did too, because I was like, why? I thought I was like, I'm the worst vice chair ever. This guy just keeps on talking. He won't stop.
I got a note today that says, I hope projects XYZ gets the same scrutiny as Aroma Joe's.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
I said, was that really scrutiny, or was that just pointing out missing items?
All right, well, anyways, I'll make a motion to keep Greg on chair for at least another year.
Second, Stetson.
Sorry.
All those in favor?
Balsaric, aye.
The Shane, aye.
Stetson, aye.
I'm going to abstain, just for fun.
Hey, if anyone else wants to be vice chair, I will nominate you right now.
Motion to make Peter clerk, vice chair, whatever. I think it's clerk is what it's called. We should probably change that.
Second, Stetson.
All those in favor? Strange eye.
Balsaric, aye.
Stetson, aye.
So, I was reading our rules and regs recently, and for all the appointments, for like CPA and capital planning. And it was supposed to be, I thought Economic Development Council too, but I think they structured it differently by mistake. But the chair actually gets to pick who does it. It's not even a voting thing. We've been voting all these years. So I'm like, who's gonna get capital planning?
Oh, so the chair picks and then everybody else. Well,
Yeah,
yes,
well, no, we don't have to do it, but that's how it is in the rules and regs. I was like, wow, it's one of those things you don't really read much, like that part of it. And but I would love to stay on CPA for like one more year, and then because then it's the big goodbye. So anybody, but if I don't want to step on any toes, if anybody wants to put in 400 hours a year on that, and anybody want to do capital planning?
Not really.
Amas, would you like to be on capital planning?
He's not.
He stepped off. He has an emergency and needed to leave the meeting.
All right, because I think I talked to him about it. And he was, because the problem is I missed, granted I had my little accident last year, I missed all of the capital planning meetings.
I mean,
And then
everyone's once in their life.
there reached a point where I'm like, I mean, I can, I do Economic Development Council, I do CPA, which is a ton of work sometimes. But if I have to, I'll if nobody wants it, I'll keep capital planning as long as I get CPA. But if I get put off CPA, then I don't want any of it. It's all or nothing. It's a package.
Okay, motion to nominate you for both.
Second, Stetson.
I'm gonna spit in your margarita. All those in favor, Strange eye.
Stetson eye.
Balsaric eye.
I say time. Deb has that perfect. It's like a 3-second delay from her secret location. Chair's report. Yeah, Stephanie, you have anything to report? I don't think I have anything.
Not tonight. It's been a long night.
Yeah, it's exactly. So
next meeting we should.
Appreciate it, guys. Yeah, we're gonna. So we got some master plan stuff we're gonna do, and some. So we've been talking. So, but yeah, hopefully we've had this rash of really long meetings. So hopefully we can. But I thought tonight, you know what? I thought for South Street, I thought it was good. I mean, we didn't get a lot of repeat stuff, which is always good, because you have to be respectful and all. But we have been through this a lot, and I think maybe the folks started to realize that. We've done a lot of pre-work with them. So, anyways, all right, guys, thank you. Appreciate it. Who wants to
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, look at that.
Second, Stetson.
All those in favor, Strange eye.
Stetson eye.
Balsaric eye.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a nice
Good
night.
night.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.